Hey guys, tonight we're boarding a ferry that doesn't appear on any map, unless you count those scribbled by monks high on ink fumes. Picture this. Your feet hit creaking planks older than the concept of seasickness. The harbor sighs beneath you, a wet, salty breath that says we've been expecting you, and your questionable life choices. You probably won't survive this. Not because of storms or sea monsters, though hey, stay tuned, but because your phone dies on cue. No GPS, no Spotify lofi beats, just fog so thick it clings to your eyelashes like wet cotton. Lanterns sway overhead, their honeyed light slicing through mist that curls like smoke from a dragon's nostrils. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Throw a comment below. Where are you right now, and what's your local time? Osaka at dawn, Miami at midnight. I'll pretend I'm not jealous. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The dock groans as you step forward, each board warped by centuries of salt and secrets. Your shoes sink slightly. Squelching sounds follow. Turns out history's got a thing for damp footwear. Ahead, the ferry waits, a shadowy hulk with paint peeling like sunburned skin. You've heard of Mesopotamian reed boats carrying souls to the underworld. This isn't that. Probably. But those iron rivets, they're identical to ones found in Viking longships, a mainstream fact that's weirdly comforting. At least the ghosts here have good maritime credentials. Wind tugs your hood back. Cold nips your ears. Somewhere behind you, a seabird cackles, the universe's worst winged hyperman. The ramp tilts as you board. Ever notice how ferries never have safety videos? Just vibes. And those vibes whisper, if you drown, we'll name a mediocre sandwich after you at the Priory Cafe. Lanterns reveal benches polished smooth by countless passengers. You pick one less splintery than the others. The seat creaks, a sound that could double as a haunted cello note. Across the harbor, the mainland shrinks. Or maybe you're the one moving. Hard to tell when the fog eats every landmark. Speaking of landmarks, ever heard of Venetian ferrymen who sang lullabies to stop passengers from jumping overboard? Quirky, but effective. No songs here, just the clank of chains and the ferryman's breath, a wheeze that suggests he's been smoking since the Crusades. Historians still argue whether these night crossings were spiritual journeys or just ancient Uberpool. You're here for the premium experience. 0 stars, guaranteed existential wobbles. The engine kicks in a diesel growl that vibrates your molars. It's not a hum, it's a threat. A lullaby for people who enjoy tax audits. Wood presses against your palm as you grip the railing. Splinters wait like tiny traitors. Below, black water licks the hull, each ripple shiny as oil. Don't lean too close. Those waves aren't waves. They're tongues. The sea here's always hungry, always watching. Your breath fogs the air. Funny, isn't it? Medieval pilgrims wore lead amulets to ward off bad vapors. You've got a half-charged phone and regret. Progress, right. The ferry slides forward, no horn, no fanfare, just the slick sound of reality unstitching at the edges. One lantern flickers. Shadows leap, dancing across the deck like charred paper. You squint. Was that a figure near the stern? Too still. Too carved. The ferryman hasn't moved. His hands clutch the wheel, lichen growing between his fingers. Or maybe that's just the lighting. A wave slaps the hull. Spray mists your face. Salt stings your lips. You taste Atlantis. Or maybe yesterday's ramen. The mainland's a charcoal smudge now. Ahead, nothing but fog and the occasional glint eyes. Stars. Wi-Fi signals from the lost city of sea. Your legs go numb. Bench vibes aren't ergonomic. You shift. The wood squeals, a sound that get you evicted from any library. Across the deck, a rusted bell sways. No clapper, just a corroded tongue hanging limp. Turns out silence is louder when you're floating toward maybe oblivion. Wind dies, so does the engine. For 3 breaths, there's only the drip-drip from the hull. Then a low moan. Not the boat, not the sea. Something under the sea. Your sweat goes arctic. But hey, at least you remembered to subscribe. The bell's groan rolls across the water. A sound so deep your ribs hum, like plucked strings. You grip the rail, wood worn smooth by centuries of hands clutching at departure. That bell's older than the steam engine beneath your feet. Medieval monks cast it to guide ships through fog. Though experts think it might have been looted from a sunken Roman galley. Who knows? The past here's as layered as barnacles on the hull. Waves flatten polished obsidian, reflecting the bell tower's silhouette. A fun fact you're too sleepy to fact check. Sailors once believed whispering debts to the sea made their ships lighter. You try it, muttering about unpaid parking tickets, but the water just licks the hull louder. The mainland shrinks, streetlights dissolving like salt in broth. Your phone dies, but who cares? Reception vanished the moment you stepped aboard this floating antique. The ferryman, still statue stiff at the wheel, might be carved from the same stone as his bell. Historians still argue whether these coastal bells were navigational aids or attempts to scare off ghosts that clung to ships like mold. Engine thrumming syncs with your pulse, 2-stroke lullaby vibrating through the deck. You half expect a crewman to offer cocoa, but the only service here's the salt sting of wind. Funny how modern ferries have snack bars. This one's got an aura of mothballs and liturgical incense. Foam curls in the wake, pale ribbons fraying into nothing. Those dark shapes gliding beneath the surface. Probably fish. Definitely fish, not the tentacled sea monks medieval cartographers drew at map edges, right? You lean closer. The water blurs, your own reflection wavers, then splits into phantom doubles, wearing strange hats. Diesel fumes mix with brine, a perfume that's 1 part nostalgia, 2 parts queasy. You count the bell's tolls, but lose track after 12. Should have paid attention when that YouTube video explained tidal monasteries. 27 nuns once lived here, took vows of silence, so strict they communed through tapestry weavings. Their looms still gathered dust in the Priory's attic, or so conspiracy forums claim. Stars blink awake above, a messy spill of sequins. The lighthouse beam sweeps past, and for a breath, the ferryman's hood flutters. No face beneath, just shadows pooled where features should be. You pretend not to notice. Some sights are like eclipses, safer observed through metaphoric pinhole projectors. Wind carries a distant wail, could be a gull, or the infamous tolling ghost tourists swear haunts foggy harbors. Your guidebook called those stories capitalist folklore. But guidebooks don't mention how the dark here feels thirsty, how it sips at your edges, leaving you softer, slower. A wave slaps the hull, cold confetti spraying your cheeks. You taste iron, could be sea spray, could be the phantom scent of the bell's bronze, oxidizing across 800 Aprils. Time's thin here, they warned you, but you didn't realize it meant history's still bleeding through the cracks. Your eyelids sink like fishing weights. Across the deck, an old woman knots ropes with hands translucent as jellyfish. She winks, or maybe a nerve just twitches in your tired brain. Neither option's comforting. The bell tolls once more, this time from underwater. You press a palm to the deck. The vibration whispers through your bones, rearranging something fundamental. Sleep isn't coming, it's been here all along, kneading your thoughts into softer shapes. Last glimpse of land vanishes, not with a bang, but a sigh. Waves cradle the ferry forward, each crest a step into weightlessness. You exhale, and the night exhales back, a shared breath fogging the stars. Somewhere below deck, a tea kettle begins to scream. The kettle's scream cuts off mid-shriek as lanterns gutter out one by one. Indigo bleeds across the horizon, TH, a T, Chinese letter, dock, dissolving like sugar in tea. Above, stars swarm, not twinkling, pulsing, as if the Big Bang's still happening somewhere up there. You squint, trying to name constellations, but these patterns are strangers. Historians still argue whether Phoenician sailors navigated by star clusters we forgot, or just hallucinated from too much sun and salted pork. Salt air pricks your lips thinner now, almost alpine, though you're at sea level. A fun fact floats up. Fishermen once believed glowing waves were souls of the drowned dancing. You watch the black water waiting for disco. All you get is a pale flicker, maybe a jellyfish, or the ghost of someone who really loved glow sticks. Your breath fogs, odd for June. But seasons here seem as reliable as a meme stock. The ferryman hasn't moved, but his shadow stretches 10 feet, wiggling like it's trying to escape. You hum a lullaby, the engine harmonizes, a duet that vibrates your molars. Remember those vibrating beds in old motels? This is that, if the motel was built on an ancient burial ground. Moonlight slicks the deck silver veneer over splintered wood. You count 73 nails before realizing it's pointless. Sleep deprivations like that. At least you're not alone. A barnacle-encrusted mermaid figurehead glares from the bow. Her smile chipped into something judgmental. Medieval sailors feared figureheads might come alive, swap places with crewmen during fog. You give her a thumbs up. She doesn't blink. Good sign. Probably. Waves slap slower now, each one a wet sigh. Your phone's still dead, but who needs GPS? The Priory's spire pricks the horizon, a hypodermic needle full of starlight. Scholars think such spires doubled as rudimentary lighthouses, though why monks needed to guide ships full of sheep and turnips is anyone's guess. Yawn, tongue tasting of battery acid and drizzle. Something brushes your ankle cold as a dentist's probe. You jerk back. Just seaweed, or the infamous harbor hair old wives swore grew from drowned men's scalps. The ferry creaks, a sound like vertebrae cracking. You're officially in the part of the brochure that says unforgettable, but means will haunt your shower thoughts. Wind shifts, carrying a whiff of bergamot and burnt hair. The tea ritual, maybe. Or the ferryman brewing something stronger in his shadowy cubby. Your stomach growls. Modern ferries have overpriced paninis. This one serves existential dread and a side of tinnitus. Stars multiply, swarming the sky like flies on jam. That fuzzy patch overhead, Andromeda. Or a retinal burn from staring at screens. Either way, it's free galactic real estate. You try to wink at it. Your eye twitches instead, flirting with cosmic entities, always awkward. The hooded figure at the wheel finally moves, raising a hand crusted with salt crystals. A wave, a warning, a desperate bid for moisturizer. His finger points starboard. You follow the line, spot a dark shape breaching. Dolphin, driftwood, the island leviathan from those unverified sailor logs. It sinks before you decide. Better to file it under mysteries that won't keep me awake. Cold seeps through your soles. Deck frosts over between heartbeats. You shuffle, souls squeaking like mice in a cathedral. Medieval pilgrims called this the frost of acceptance, final chill before holy sights. Experts say it's just poor insulation. You say it's both. Compromise, holy insulation. Lights twinkle beneath the waves, now matching constellations above. A visual echo, or the sunken Dublin legend locals whisper after too much gin. Your guidebook scoffed. But guidebooks never explain why seabirds avoid this stretch. Their silence hangs thicker than the fog, ears ringing with the absence of wings. You slump against a lifeboat, paint flaking like dried skin. It smells of mildew and grandmothers. Sleep tugs, not the kind that heals, the kind that unravels. Your last coherent thought. At least you remembered to unplug the toaster. Priorities, right. The world tilts, or maybe you do, as the ferry drifts into a starfield reflected on still water. Sky and sea merge, a mirrored oblivion dotted with distant fires. You're no longer sure which way is up. But the Priory's light glows brighter, hungry, as the first dream slithers over the rail. Gray mist snaps apart like stage curtains yanked too fast, and there she is, the crescent moon. A celestial banana peel dangles above inkblot waves. Your lungs hitch in, out, matching the engine's arrhythmia. It's not a rhythm, it's a countdown. Phoenician traders once navigated these coasts by star slices like that. Or so your third grade diorama claimed. Historians still argue whether their star maps align with real constellations or just dolphin migration paths. Cold nuzzles your neck, sharp as a librarian's shush. You fumble for a scarf that isn't there. Should have packed thicker socks. Medieval sailors stuffed their boots with dried seaweed for warmth. A pro tip you're mentally bookmarking. The moon's curve sharpens, edges glowing like a smartphone screen in the dark. You half expect a notification, but the sky stays stubbornly offline. Water hisses against the hull angrier now, as if offended by the mist's sudden exit. Between swells, you spot shapes. Not fish, not rocks, triangular like miniature Stonehenges lurking just below the surface. Megalithic tidebreakers, ruins of a failed theme park. The ferryman's shadow twitches. Is that a nod or a shudder? You pretend it's a shrug. Cognitive dissonance makes great insulation. Breath steam hovers, a personal cloud shaped like question marks. 14th century monks wrote about moonburns, skin blisters from prolonged stargazing. You roll your sleeves down, not taking chances. That prickling on your arms, probably fear or cheap detergent. Either way, it pairs well with the soundtrack of creaking timber and existential doubt. The engine stalls, silence hits like a thrown brick. Waves giggle. You clutch the rail, then feel it, a vibration not from the boat, from below. Submerged church bells, underground rivers, a really pissed off narwhal. The ferryman mutters his first sound since Plymouth, a noise like a shovel on gravel. Translation: don't ask. Moonlight licks the waves, exposing ribs of a shipwreck, half buried in the sand. Barnacles crust its spine, nature's glitter. Pirates, rum runners. A particularly unlucky cruise liner from 1987. No clues remain, just iron bones. Divers found Roman coins nearby, proof traders passed through, or proof someone dropped their grandma's souvenir collection. Wind delivers an encore of bergamot, stronger now, cut with wet dog odor. The Priory's light throbs in time with your headache. Monks allegedly brewed hallucinogenic teas from moonflower pollen. You cough, suddenly suspicious of the flask in your backpack. Too late now. The air's gone syrupy, each breath flavored with licorice and impending bad decisions. A wave slaps the deck, salty confetti. You wipe your face and freeze. The water left something, a pebble. No, a tooth, whale molar. Viking dental work. Theories stack up, then topple. Chucking it overboard feels wrong. You pocket it. Future use problem. Stars bleach the sky, their glare almost rude. You missed the memo. No photos, no souvenirs, no proof. Just this fever dream voyage, Elizabeth, I allegedly took during her lost summer. Scholars dismiss it, but her journals mention a moonlit spire and songs from the deep. Coincidence? Sure. Let's go with that. The crescent winks, or maybe you blinked. Depth perception's shot. Everything feels inches away, miles away, same difference now. Engine restarts, a choked growl. Progress. Or is the boat drifting backward? No landmarks left. Just the Priory's needle jabbing the sky's underbelly. You hum that lullaby again. The engine ignores you. Something bumps the hull, 3 rhythmic knocks. A fog signal. Or the tolling of that underwater bell tower nobody's admitting exists. You lean over, see your reflection, pale and warped, framed by the moon's curve. Then the water blinks. Just a trick of light, unless bioluminescent fish are judgy too. Teeth chatter yours, not the mystery tooth. Time's gone slippery. Could be midnight, could be next Thursday. Monks here followed tide time, scheduling prayers by the sea's inhale-exhale. You try syncing your watch. It dies. Message received. The ferryman clears his throat, a sound like Velcro ripping. His hand emerges, a map etched in salt lines and liver spots. You squint. Is that Cornwall? The Greek Isles? A toddler's scribble. He folds it quick, but not before you spot a tiny doodle, a crescent moon with eyes. Cold crystallizes your nostrils, each sniff a razor. You recall that Victorian gag where nobles snorted wakefulness powder, 90% crushed pearls, 10% cocaine. Classy, but ineffective. The Priory's closer now, its light eating the dark. Windows glow like jaundiced eyes. Welcome mats in these parts probably say abandon hope in cursive. Sudden warmth, a patch of air near the lifeboat. You gravitate toward it, then recoil. Smell of burnt sugar and wet wool. The ferryman's lost slot machine theory drifts back. How certain sea zones radiate residual heat from sunk Vegas barges. Nonsense, but your goosebumps vote for Vegas. Moon dust, that's what coats your tongue now. Gritty, sweet, probably psychosomatic. Pilgrims described it as manna for the doubting. Chemists say it's brine spray mixed with pollen. You let it dissolve, truth tastes better with delusion. The spire splits the crescent, perfect alignment, as the engines hum flat lines. Bell towers and nautical charts flash behind your lids, or are your eyes open? Can't tell. The ferry drifts, silent toward a shore that hums, a low, oily note vibrating your fillings. One final rule of maritime horror: never look back. You do. The mist's restitched itself, a woolen curtain fraying at the edges. Beyond it, something swells. Not a wave, not a beast, a presence. You face forward fast. The Priory's gates yawn, a stony mouth edged in frost or teeth. Time to disembark. Your boots sink into tidal muck, each step a wet kiss from the shallows. The barnacled stones rise, knee-high at first, then shoulder height, then looming like petrified whales. Their backs glisten, shimmer-skinned under light that shouldn't exist here. 17th century sailors swore these formations were Viking ships turned to stone. But you're pretty sure Vikings didn't use keels shaped like pelvic bones. Saltwater sloshes between the stones, whispering in a language Google Translate won't touch. You trace a ridge of barnacles, crusty braille telling stories of sieges, or maybe grocery lists. Careful, that edge bites. A welt blooms on your thumb, same shade as the Priory's windows. Medieval monks used crushed amethyst for stained glass, pricey flecks, before stained glass was cool. One stone curves inward, a rib cage big enough to park a Mini Cooper inside. You duck under. Moss drapes the ceiling, dripping brine that smells of pennies and regret. Historians still argue whether these formations are glacial scars or the bones of a Mesolithic land bridge. Either way, they're great at guilting you into crouching. Light filters through a crack above, hitting a patch of water at your feet. Shapes coil beneath the surface. Eels, seaweed, the ghost of your last credit card statement. You kneel, disturbing something that scuttles. A crab the size of a teacup waves its claws, tiny samurai challenging you to single combat. You surrender a protein bar crumb. Truce declared. Wind funnels through the stone maze, howling like a dial-up modem. Your hood flaps, useless, as spray peppers your neck. Coastal villagers once tied dried shark fins to their hats for wind resistance. You're starting to see the appeal. The Priory's spire winks, closer now, its light pooling in the hollows of these half-drowned giants. A handprint stains the next stone, palm two large fingers too long. Definitely not yours. Definitely not human. You press your hand over it, fingertips barely grazing the outline. Tudor kids told stories of a tide giant who reshaped cliffs between naps. Nonsense. But your goosebumps beg to differ. Barnacles crunch underfoot nature's potato chips. You pocket a piece, instantly regret it. It squirms. Ocean life clings tighter than a telemarketer. The stone beneath you groans, a bass note vibrating your fillings. Submerged caves, fault lines, the world's soggiest subwoofer. You pick up the pace, suddenly aware these rocks could close ranks. Moonlight shifts, exposing carvings. Spirals, sunbursts, stick figure bargains with squid. Your phone's dead, no flashlight, but tactile archaeology's a thing. Braille vandalism from 3000 BCE. Archaeologists found similar marks off Wales coast, pre-Celtic doodles, or tidal erosion's prank. Your thumbnail snags on a groove too precise for waves. Something glints in the muck, a coin. You fish it out, Elizabethan shilling, or a Chuck E. Cheese token. Can't tell corrosion's a great equalizer. Toss it back. Let future metal detector guy earn his YouTube views. The stones open into a lagoon, still as a paused movie. Your reflection ripples, then holds. No, wait. The eyes staring back aren't yours, too wide, too hungry. You blink. The water blinks slower. A trick or Pascal's. Cold seeps through your souls, the kind that bypasses flesh and gnaws bone directly. Monks here practiced ice devotion, standing neck-deep in tidal pools until their toes turned blue. Spiritual, maybe. Legit way to skip laundry duty. Absolutely. You trip, hands plunging into the shallows. Sand squirms alive with creatures fleeing your city soft touch. Among them, a shard of pottery. Glazed green Roman. Ming, target clearance aisle. It warms in your palm, memory bleeding through the cracks. A wave hits, knee-high and petty, soaking your jeans. Salt stiffens the fabric like papier-mâché. 18th century sailors pissed themselves on purpose for warmth. You'll pass, but file the idea under desperate measures. The Priory's gate beckons, a shadow cut into moonlight. You step onto a stone slab, and it sinks. Murky water boils, bubbles bursting with the stench of overcooked asparagus. Legends say witch hunters drowned sea witches, hear their curses fermenting into methane. You backpedal, suddenly team skeptic, as the odor clings like bad cologne. The final stone tilts, a seesaw daring you to cross. You hop on arms helicoptering as it dips toward the lagoon. Balance is a lie, but momentum's free. The far side slaps your shin, welcome to dry-ish land. The Priory's walls loom close enough to taste their mildew breath. Behind you, the stones creak, not in wind, but in chorus, a harmony of hinges and whale song. You don't look back. Rule one of haunted estuaries. Never acknowledge the encore. The ferryman stands hooded, as if the fog itself knitted him from damp and disregard. His hands rest on the wheel, pale as driftwood, cracked lines, mapping routes only drowning men could chart. You count 7 barnacles clinging to his sleeve. 18th century rivermen wore such crustaceans as charms. See stubbornness against a watery end. This guy, either a walking good luck charm or a ticking ecological violation. His boat creaks, a sound like unoiled hinges on a haunted cabinet. No engine rumble disturbs the hush. You're moving, gliding, yet the water stays smooth as vacuum-sealed silk. Historians still argue whether medieval ferrymen rowed or prayed their way across. This one's method, pure vibes. Moonlight catches his chin, just enough to spot the absence. No beard, no stubble, not even pores. Face smooth as a mannequin's, if mannequins moonlighted as Karen. You half expect him to hawk overpriced snacks. Instead, the hood tilts, not toward you, toward the suitcase-sized radio bolted to the deck. Static hisses, then fragments of Glenn Miller's Moonlight serenade spill out. The trumpet solo skips, loop corrupted by salt or spite, a 1942 classic, playing on equipment that shouldn't exist here. Naval buffs whisper about ghost frequencies trailing sunken warships. You're tempted to ask for requests, but his posture suggests a quiet car policy. Wavelets slap the hull, too rhythmic for chance. You focus, matching the pattern to a 14th century Cistercian chant. Media Vita in Mort Sumus, sung by monks mid-plague to mock their own mortality. Morbid karaoke, perfect for midnight cruises. He shifts first movement in 13 minutes. A single finger extends, pointing at your feet. You glance down, wet boot prints already fading. Priory legend claims the ferry preserves no marks except those left by unfinished souls. You wipe your souls extra hard. Skepticism's cheaper than therapy. A drip hits your neck cold and thick. Not water. You touch it, smear viscous black between fingertips. Ship's tar, engine oil. The ferryman's hood darkens, seeping. You recall Victorian, sailors' tales of old-blooded men guiding ships through ferry straits. Then you spot the leaking fuel line overhead. Mystery solved. Mostly. His sleeve brushes a lantern, glass etched with symbols. You lean closer, recognizing 16th century wind roses and a graffiti-style dickbutt. Time hasn't killed mankind's urge to draw genitals on sacred things. Progress. The radio sputters a weather report, 1944 invasion forecasts for Normandy. Static swallows Eisenhower's voice mid-sentence. Weird history crash course. Or proof the ferry runs on artistic license. You hum the next notes testing. The ferryman's head snaps toward you, hood gaping like a startled Venus flytrap. No face, just a vacuum where shadows converge. You cough, suddenly invested in your cuticles. Rule 2 of uncanny voyages. Don't karaoke with the void. The radio dies. Silence floods back, heavy as wet wool. A chart unfurls at your feet, vellum, speckled with mold. Islands marked where islands shouldn't be. High Brassel, Avalon, Disney's Tomorrowland. Cartographers once drew mermaids warning here be taxes. This map screams here be nope. He taps a fingernail yellow as nicotine stains on a cluster of inky waves. Your destination? Maybe. Or the world's worst timeshare location. Victorian occultists believed ferryman's maps revealed ports of the unsettled soul. The paper disintegrates as you blink, leaving a fishy smell and trust issues. Brittle laughter echoes yours. His. The seagull glaring from the mast. Renaissance plague docks claimed laughter during crossings invited marsh devils. You muffle a snort. Too late. Something belly crawls in the bilge below, squelching like a sneaker in a washing machine. He slams a fist on the wheel. The noise stops. First rule of Ferry Club: don't acknowledge Ferry Club. You mouth sorry to no one. Moonlight glints on his wedding band, greenish gold, Cladog style. Irish. Or swiped from a Titanic victim. Museums report missing artifacts weekly. Coincidence? Sure, let's go with that. The Priory looms a cutout pasted onto the stars. Almost there. Almost. His hand shoots out, blocking your step toward the bow. Nails graze your sleeve, cold seeping through the threads. Tudor children's rhymes bubble up. Touch the ferryman's cuff. Never more warm enough. Folklore's 50% nonsense. 50% OSHA warnings. A chain slithers overboard, rusted iron jaws clamping driftwood. The gangplank, more like a medieval dentist's nightmare. You cross it anyway, each groaning creak, emphasizing your life choices. His hood follows you, a sentinel of silent critique. 3 steps from shore, wind rips the radio's cord loose. The last thing you hear before the Priory's shadow swallows you whole is Glenn Miller resurrecting through dead speakers. The ferryman's hum trails behind a half-step off-key. Somewhere, a gull heckles. The hull's rhythm becomes your heartbeat, a warped lullaby of creaks and swallowed vowels. Salt crusts your eyelids, each blink scratches like a guilty thought. 14th century sailors timed voyages by seawater's viscosity. Your drying skin suggests it's Wednesday or the apocalypse. A bubble bursts near the rudder, releasing a sound like why. You ignore it. The Mediterranean's drowned libraries supposedly whisper through foam. Your student loans feel lighter already. Splinters of moonlight pierce the wake, briefly spelling Geo back in fractured glare. Tudor map makers hid such warnings as decorative squiggles. You squint, it rearranges into Geo B Cyrillic letter 4C4CK. Even the ocean has typos. The ferryman coughs, a wet, 3-note wheeze. Plague docks mistook that sound for the death rattle of drowned angels. His resume needs fact-checking. Something bumps below, too rubbery for driftwood. 1950s submariners reported gill-faced shadows brushing their hulls. You lean over, see only your reflection, mouthing don't. Pier pressures a bitch in Atlantis. Wind plucks the rigging. Playing a Tesla coil cover of My Heart will go on. Historians still argue whether Phoenician sails doubled as musical instruments, or they just loved whistling. You hum along, off-key enough to make the wind wince. A wave slaps the prow, spray forming a fleeting hand. It flashes the rock sign. Victorian mediums called this aqueous pantomime. You nod, secretly hoping it's someone's cool, dead aunt. The radio gasps to life. Magnetic storm warning. Then vomits static. WWII battleships used distorted broadcasts to mask U-boat positions. You're either hearing history or a very lost college radio DJ. Barnacles crunch, underfoot shrill, as a babysitter's popcorn teeth. 17 steps to the stern, 18 if you drag your guilt. Your heel catches a groove, a Roman numeral carved by seasick crusaders. TripAdvisor review. Wouldn't crucify again. Salt air numbs your tongue tasting of cheap tequila and older regrets. A pre-Incan cult brewed ocean's breath tea to erase memories. Your past stays intact, but you could go for a margarita. Shadows coil in the bilge, squirming like dumped spaghetti. Renaissance painters used squid ink for morning portraits, sentient leftovers included. You shuffle away. Bad art TM doesn't need a sequel. The tide hiccups, jolting the deck. Your knees buckle. 18th century British Navy manuals listed inebriated seas as grounds for mutiny. You grip the rail, silently judging Poseidon's life choices. Something drifts past, a bioluminescent jellyfish pulsing to Daft Punk's BPM. Marine biologists deny species with tasteful rave gear. You nod respect. The jelly flips its gelatinous skirt, which probably means drag race at dawn. Dawn pinks the horizon, a cowardly sunrise scared to commit. Herodotus described sunrises that fled like startled flamingos. You sympathize. The Priory's silhouette sharpens, its gates clenched like a disappointed parent. The ferry slows, hull groaning in relief. Mooring ropes snake ashore, hissing as they tighten. Venetian dockhands trained eels to do this, until the union disputes. You eye the exit. Freedom or a really moist trap. Wind slaps your cheeks. Final warning or farewell. A Norse scald's curse blows past. May your socks stay perpetually damp. You're way ahead of them. Water drips from the mast, tinny pings echoing across the bay. Each drop hums middle sea, a medieval torture method. Spa ASMR. The ferryman picks his teeth with a fishbone, indifferent to your acoustic crisis. Your first step onto the dock leaves no print good news for alibi enthusiasts. The Priory's gates creak open, a yawn from something that shouldn't need breath. Behind you, the ferry dissolves into mist, or maybe you've stopped believing hard enough. The stone bluffs rise, a wall of night greased with starlight. Moonflowers cling like desperate lovers, petals trembling as you pass. Medieval monks used their sap in painkillers and hallucinogens for divine diagnostics. Your palm brushes a bloom. Its cold velvet pulls back, shy or disgusted. Ascending the switchback trail, each step sinks into rock, softened by centuries of fog. 1742 petition signatures line the cliff's base, Victorian widows demanding safe passage for spectral husbands. The ink's still legible and slightly judgmental. Vines snake across your ankles, not restraining, just testing. A 1923 cryptozoology journal claimed these creepers hummed Gregorian chants. You strain, hear only tinnitus from last night's espresso binge. Close enough, the scent thickens, cloying as spilled perfume in a confession booth. Historians still argue whether monks grew these flowers for rituals or to mask leech jar stench. You gag respectfully. Peeling a petal reveals bioluminescent veins, pulsing lazy semaphore. Rub it. Your thumb glows like a failed Jedi trick. Tudor herbalists called this witch ignition and taxed it. You wipe remnants on your jeans. Tax evasion never felt so petty. Halfway up, a stone bench erupts from the cliffside, its inscriptions worn to a vague sit why. You oblige. Moss imprints a Rorschach test on your thighs. Is that a bear or your third-grade teacher? Moonflower roots drip black liquid, plink-plinking into tide pools below. Renaissance painters used the stuff to mimic abyss tones. Your reflection stares back, edges blurred, as if considering retirement. A bat dive bombs your hair, wingtips frosting your ears. Local lore claims they're scouts for a buried carillon. You duck. The bat poops mid-flight, a grudging review of your life choices. The path narrows, shoulders scraping stone. 19th century tourists got stuck here, their diary entries abruptly switching to L a T, I N, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter. You suck in, suddenly grateful for skipped breakfasts. Wind whips through the gorge, a shriek tuned to dental drill soprano. Ancient pilgrims wore earplugs carved from whale eardrums. Yours, dollar store foam. The difference shows. At the crest, a wrought iron gate shudders in its sleep. Its spikes wear hats of frost, sweating under moonlight's glare. You push. Rust flakes off like Dead Sea Scroll dandruff. Beyond, a courtyard paved with tidal rocks or molars. Each step clicks, rhythm syncs with your fillings. Archaeologists found Roman coins here stamped with BRB in Morse code. You pocket a pebble. Souvenir or destiny, the lines blurry. One flower sways ahead, larger, throbbing like a forbidden Paul Stretch remix. Its center holds a dewdrop or mercury. A 1950s jazz trumpeter swore these blooms cured his stage fright. He retired to sell insurance. You lean in, the droplet shows your face, but happier. Vines lace the archway ahead, thorns curled in mock curtsies. Their shadows sketch a welcome mat or a liability waiver. The Priory's door creaks, a sound older than the concept of weekends. You wipe your feet. Politeness costs nothing, but this'll cost everything. The iron door groans, its rusted hinges singing bass notes through your molars. Beyond lies a corridor sculpted by glacial size, walls polished smooth as a mortician's hands. 17th century nuns allegedly smuggled forbidden texts through here, stitched inside seal bladders to float if pursued. Your footsteps echo, then multiply. A stampede of invisible pilgrims dogging your heels. Moss squelches underfoot, releasing spores that taste like burnt vanilla. A 1903 expedition reported ghostly choir rehearsals here, only to later admit they'd mixed local mushrooms into their tea. You cough, the air's thick enough to spread on toast. Wan light leaks through cracks, exposing fossils pressed into stone. Ammonites coil beside handprints smaller than a child's, or a pygmy mammoth's. Historians still argue whether the tunnel's carvings are maps or surrender notes from the lost. You trace a spiral. It warms under your touch, retaining someone's last fever. Wind funnels through fissures, whistling nursery rhymes in a dead dialect. Your hair lifts, static charged strands pointing like compass needles gone rogue. 18th century sailors believed these gusts carried warnings from drowned forecasters. A particularly enthusiastic breeze whispers duck. You comply, avoiding a stalactite's wet kiss. The tunnel widens, revealing a grotto where water mirrors hang from the ceiling. Each droplet holds a refracted world, upside-down forests, cities built on clouds. A Victorian medium claimed to have scried her death here, then tripped on her petticoat and proved it. Your reflection wavers, sporting a top hat you've never owned. Something crunches under your heel, a clay shard etched with half a rune. Archaeologists found hundreds here, all broken mid-symbol. Was it a curse interrupted, or ancient quality control? You pocket it, the ceramic cold as a widow's smile. Salt crusts the walls, crystals forming thorned roses that melt at a breath. Alchemists once prized this tearstone for elixirs of forgetfulness. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth, suddenly grateful for modern dentistry. A draught carries the scent of parchment and wet wolfhound. Your flashlight dies, darkness swooping in like a debt collector. Renaissance engineers hid sconces here that allegedly ran on eel fat. But all you've got is your phone's glare. The screen flickers, showing 3:0 a.m. in a font that winks. Echoes congeal into words, turn back overlapping with this way in a round. A 1930s guidebook swore the walls absorbed arguments from pilgrim couples. Your own voice comes back younger, sounding annoyingly optimistic. You hum a pop song. It returns as a Gregorian chant. Fair enough. Shallow steps appear worn concave by bare feet. The stone feels oddly warm, or maybe your hands are just freezing. Napoleon's surveyors plotted escape, routes here, abandoning tools still lodged in cracks. Your pinky brushes a rusted pickaxe. Its handle sprouts a single moonflower bud. Coincidence? Probably. Pretty? Definitely. Water seeps through your soles, dyeing your socks pioneer gray. The tunnel curves, walls narrowing, until your shoulders leave snail trails in the slime. A plaque commemorates a 1911 suffragette who got stuck here for 3 days. Her hunger strike notes sold as radical bookmarks. You exhale, sucking in ribs that suddenly regret brunch. Cold metal grazes your neck, a rusted chain dangling a censer. Inside, ashes of something fragrant and possibly illegal. Tudor spice smugglers used these to mask contraband clove shipments. You give it a swing. It orbits your head like a spiteful halo. The ceiling drips in Morse code, or perhaps just Morse code adjacent. WWII radio operators trained here, relaying messages through 7 miles of stone. You catch a SOS or someone's initials. Either way, it's not your problem. Light blooms ahead, not daylight, but the sallow glow of held breath. The walls here bear scratch marks, some child height, some definitely not. Your shadow stretches, gaining bulk and extra limbs before snapping back like cheap elastic. A rusted iron gate blocks the exit, decorated with kelp garlands and what might be teeth. It's unlocked, or more accurately, half rotted through. You push, the entire structure collapses in a slow-motion sneeze of flakes. Freedom smells like fish and diesel. Black sand crunches underfoot, each grain magnetized to your soles. Geologists say this shore birthed Europe's first compass needles, though pirates preferred drunk navigators. Your footprints fill instantly, as if the beach prefers to keep secrets. The ferryman waits, hooded silhouette merging with the dock's jagged teeth. His lantern swings, casting light that lands heavy as dropped anchors. You glance back. The tunnel's mouth has sealed itself with fresh limestone. A crab sidesteps over the spot, carrying a pearl that winks like a conspirator. Waves slap the hull, a wet metronome counting your remaining heartbeats. Salt crusts your lips, tasting of every goodbye you've ever swallowed. The engine sputters to life, vibrations tuning your bones to a frequency just below sorrow. Somewhere behind the mist, a bell tolls, or maybe it's your phone left on silent in a dead zone. Doesn't matter. The boat moves, or the island retreats, same difference. A white flower drifts past, its petals folded into a tiny fist. You let it float away, unclenching as it goes. The ferry slips forward, black water parting like charred silk. Twin rock spires loom ahead, their summits gnawed by centuries of salt and spite. You crane your neck. Moss drapes the archway in dripping curtains green as envy. Local myths claim Vikings marked this passage with runes. But all you see is graffiti from 18th century whalers. Waves flex beneath the hull, lifting you toward that groaning keystone. Its underside glistens, rigid with barnacles that click like disapproving tongues. Marine biologists found limpets here older than the Magna Carta, still gripping stone like tiny gray knights. Your breath hitches, air smells of wet rope, and something floral gardenias left too long in a tomb. A current grabs the boat, twisting it sideways beneath the arch. The keystone emits a bass groan, vibrating through your shoes into fillings. 18th century sailors swore this sound could cure gout if you stood barefoot on deck. You try it, toes curling on frigid planks, and discover sailors lied about a lot of things. Moss tendrils brush your scalp damp and oddly warm. Historians still argue whether the arch formed naturally or was shaped by tools lost to tides. Your palms sweat clinging to the rail as shadows thicken. The rock above weeps rust-colored streaks, iron deposits, or something blood adjacent. Either way, it tints the deck like cheap wine. Light fractures through the archway, slicing the fog into panes of gauzy gold. You pass through, shivering as air pressure drops, ears popping like champagne corks. Victorian spiritualists held seances here, convinced the arch amplified whispers from Atlantis. All they caught were seagull shrieks and the occasional fish fart. The keystone's shadow drapes over you, heavy as a sodden quilt. Your skin prickles, arm hairs lifting in salute to unseen currents. A 1920s submarine crew reported compasses spinning wild here, claimed they'd found Atlantis's back door. Their logbook ended mid-sentence, followed by grocery lists for bread and herring. Salt crusts your lips, taste buds recoiling at the bitterness. Overhead, a lone cormorant glides, neck bent like a question mark. Its shadow merges with yours, briefly giving you wings before dissolving into spray. Marine archaeologists keep petitioning to scan the seabed here, but the tides eat their drones within minutes. Something plucks at your sleeve, just breeze through a frayed thread. Still, your heart revs like a sputtered engine. The boat clears the arch, emerging into water so still it reflects the mist as granite. You exhale, and the sea exhales back, a moist sigh that smells of oysters and regret. Behind, The keystone groans again, this time a slackening sound, ropes unraveling. When you turn, the arch looks smaller, moss retracting like felted claws. A single droplet falls, hitting your collar with the precision of a sniper. Ripples spread across the stagnant bay, each crest a tiny dagger aimed ashore. Your ears pop once more, sound rushing back in a woolly stampede. Waves chuckle against the hull, mocking your hunched shoulders and white-knuckled grip. The ferryman coughs, a sound like pebbles down a drainpipe. His hood tilts. You pretend not to notice the hollow where his face should be. Ahead, the Priory spire stabs through low clouds, or maybe they're clinging to it. Either way, it's closer now. Closer enough to see cracks in the mortar or claw marks. You flex your fingers, tracing the ghost of that mossy touch, and wonder when you'll feel truly dry again. The spire's light throbs, a golden metronome, synced to your pulse. Fog clings to its peak like cobwebs on a chandelier, but nothing dims that glow. 13th century monks once burned whale oil here, harvested from beached leviathans. They called gods misplaced candles. Your eyelids droop, each blink stretching longer as the beacon drills into your skull. A gull glides past, its wing beats match the light's rhythm. You count them, 37, 38, 39, before realizing you've forgotten how numbers work. Historians still argue whether this tower guided ships or lured them onto rocks for salvage rights. The answer drifts just out of reach, like the ache behind your molars from clenching. Salt crusts your nostrils, each breath a scratchy ledger of every wave crossed. That light's doing something freaky with shadows. The mast stretches and snaps back like taffy. In 1632, a drunken friar claimed the beacon's flame could pickle nightmares. If you stared at it while fasting, you're too full of adrenaline and regret to test his theory. The hull grinds against stone. You've drifted into shallows without noticing. Below, bioluminescent plankton flares, exposing rib-like rocks curled around the boat. 19th century divers swore they found chess pieces here, ivory pawns carved with faces screaming. You tighten your grip, fingernails mapping crescents into your palms. Rotted wood groans. A makeshift dock nudges the ferry's starboard side. Its planks bow under phantom footsteps, or maybe just rot. Your knees unlock, gravity feels heavier here, as if the spire's tugging your bones upward. Local legends speak of sleepwalking pilgrims who climbed straight up the tower's side, fingers bleeding on moon-cooled stone. Wind flicks your ear, a wet whisper in Nordic accented English. Don't. You spin, facing only the ferryman's hunched back. His oilskin coat glistens, too black, too much like liquid. The beacon's reflection swims in every droplet, miniature spires rippling across his shoulders. You step onto the dock. It exhales a century's worth of trapped brine. The planks cradle your weight for now. 20 paces ahead, cliffside stairs spiral into the fog. Each step wears a groove from generations of bare feet pilgrims, penitents, or meals. A shadow detaches from the tower's base, elongating toward you like spilled ink. Your throat tightens until you recognize the ferry's flag flapping. Someone's stitched an extra /C/ into the word Pacific. Seams bulge, the letters drunk and sliding south. The beacon pulses faster, or maybe your heart's playing catch-up. Monks here supposedly brewed a tea from dried jellyfish, guaranteed to erase memories of seagull-related trauma. You're sober enough to question their methods, but you're tired enough to risk it. Stone steps bite into your soles, edges polished by knees and foreheads. Halfway up, a rusted handrail begins, then quits after 3 rungs. Carved initials climb the wall, cut by lovesick sailors and tactical retreaters. M plus P 1942 glints, fresh compared to Viking runes later, deemed mostly genitalia. Wind shears past, carrying the tinny echo of a bell tolling underwater. Your left shoelace unravels, because of course it does. You kneel fumbling with numb fingers as the beacon paints your back in striped shadows. A chill creeps up your spine, distinctly finger-shaped. But imagination's a real jerk tonight. The final stair welcomes you with a puddle of moonlit moss. It squelches, defiantly organic, under your tread. The spire's base looms, pockmarked with arrow slits weeping tepid air. One breath tastes of incense, the next of wet fur. A figure melts from the tower's doorway, hooded, but not ferryman-shaped. They extends a hand, gloved in fraying sailcloth. Threads dangle, each strung with a fishhook. You hesitate until the glove peels back, revealing skin translucent as squid membrane. The beacon flares, burning the world into a photo negative. You flinch, and the figure's gone. Only a fishhook remains quivering in the wood where your knee nearly kissed the planks. Somewhere above, a latch clicks, inviting you to climb or interrogate your life choices. Your foot finds the first iron rung. It creaks like a tortured oboe. The beacon's heat licks your cheeks. Or is that shame? You climb anyway, because turning back would require remembering how your legs work. The iron rung creaks, its protest swallowed by the sudden hush. You emerge into air so still, it feels inhaled and held. Below, the bay stretches black and flawless, a mirror for the moon's jagged scar. Waves lie motionless, frozen mid-ripple, as if God pressed pause during a tantrum. 17th century whalers named this place Deadman's Looking Glass, believing drowned souls peered up through its surface. You half expect a face to bloom in the ink, but the dark stays blank. Historians still argue whether the stillness stems from tidal anomalies or the 200 shipwrecks piled like coins below. Gulls perch on rusted buoy chains, feathers fluffed into silence. Their beaks stay shut, a feat worse than your cousin Brenda at Thanksgiving. One swivels its head, black eyes tracking you, then goes statue again. Local fishermen claimed these birds were punishment for a sailor who mocked a Selkie's singing voice. But you're pretty sure that's just seagull OSHA regulations. Your foot touches the dock, no splash, no groan like stepping onto frozen tar. The planks gleam slick with condensation that isn't cold, isn't warm, isn't anything. In 1923, an archaeologist swore he found Roman coins here, minted with a Leviathan emblem. The British Museum misplaced his findings, along with his credibility and favorite pipe. Moonlight pools around your ankles, a viscous white that clings as you walk. The ferryman's engine dies behind you, its last cough smothered by the quiet. Ahead, stone steps vanish into cliffside shadows, each coated in iridescent slime. 19th century postcards called this the stairway of marine phosphorescence. Tourists paid extra to vomit rainbows here. You grab the handrail, a mistake. Barnacles bite your palm, their edges honed by a century of grudges. A bead of blood swells, then hangs defying gravity before plunging to the bay. It hits the surface without a sound, absorbed like ink into blotting paper. Wind attempts a comeback, puffing weakly at your collar, then gives up. The air smells of nothing. Not salt, not rot, just the flat reek of sterile packaging. Even your own breath seems quieted, lungs wrapped in acoustic foam. Halfway up the stairs, a pale shape glows in the cliff wall. You lean closer, finding a seashell wedged into the rock. Not fossilized, but fresh, its mother of pearl gleaming. Someone carved tiny names inside. Estelle and Amara, 1811. Nestled beside a crude doodle of a squid. The higher you climb, the heavier silence becomes. It presses on your eardrums, thick as wet wool. You hum a grocery list tune, hymn to milk and eggs, but the notes die at your teeth. In 1954, a lighthouse keeper reported hearing anti-sound, hear frequencies that vacuumed noise from the air. They fired him for unnecessary jazz hands during the investigation. Your knees protest, each step higher than the last. The stairs were clearly designed by someone who hated calves and joy. You count them to stay sane: 93, 94, 95, until the numbers bleed together like melted crayons. At the 100th step, the cliff levels into a moonlit plateau. The bay spreads below, an oil slick stamped with star reflections. No waves, no wind, just the raw, itchy silence of a world in waiting. Your pulse thrums in your neck, a ragged metronome out of sync with everything. 3 fishing skiffs float in the distance, wooden hulls sagging into the glass. Rats weave through their rigging, silent acrobats in a dead circus. One pauses, standing hind legs, and you swear it's taking notes. To your left, a weathered sign leans into the cliff. Its letters sweat rust, caution. Tidal patterns may occur suddenly. The may is crossed out, replaced with won't in confident Sharpie. A child's sticker of a frowning octopus clings to the post, tentacles curled in judgment. Something cracks, a gunshot snap that nearly stops your heart. You spin, finding only a frozen wave crest behind you. Its foam hangs mid-curdle, sharp enough to shave with. Reaching out, you brush the edge with drawing fingers coated in salt grit. It tastes like regret and store-brand potato chips. The skiff rats freeze, pointing their snouts at the eastern horizon. You follow their gaze, spotting a distortion in the air, a lens flare with commitment issues. It shimmers, warps, then spits out a single perfect ripple. The bay's surface wrinkles, propagating silently before smoothing back to obsidian. Your right shoe unties itself, laces serpentining into the dark. You let it, couldn't bend to fix them anyway, not with the silence clamping your ribs. That's when you notice. No tide lines, no seaweed garlands, no plastic trash, no crusted salt on the stones. This bay doesn't breathe, it postures. Ahead, a stone arch frames the Priory's shadow. Its keystone drips moon milk, staining the ground in Rorschach blots. You step through, and the temperature drops 20 degrees. Frost blooms on your sleeves, crystallizing in feather patterns. 19th century spiritualists held seances here, hoping to channel the bay's withheld voices. They got hypothermia and one instance of frostbite in a regrettable area. The Priory walls loom, their mortar scarred by salt claws. You press a palm to the stone and feel it hum, not vibration, but the ghost of vibration, like muscle memory in dead rock. Windows gape above, their glass long since surrendered to gravity's nagging. A weathered rope dangles beside the door, its end frayed into a chef's kiss of decay. You pull anyway, because humans are nothing if not terminally curious. Somewhere high above, a bell stirs, then chokes back its own clapper. The resulting thud travels through your shoes, a bass note that rearranges your fillings. The door creaks open, sound rationed like wartime butter. A corridor stretches ahead, floorboards splintered into wooden lightning. Each step releases a puff of dust, which floats instead of falling. Twin rows of alcoves line the walls, some holding candle stubs, others holding shadows that hold you back. At the third alcove, you pause. A leather-bound book lies open, pages warped by centuries of damp. The inks bled into Rorschach smears, except one marginal note. The bay isn't water, it's the pause between heartbeats. Underloin, as if the writer heard you coming. Further in, a hearth gapes cold and deep. Its mantle bears copper cookware green with patina, and a fish skeleton arranged in mock flight. Ash piles below resemble tiny dunes until you spot the footprints. Bare feet, child-sized, pressed into soot that hasn't stirred in lifetimes. You turn expecting phantoms and meet only more corridor. The air tastes different here, metallic, urgent. A draft snakes through, carrying whispers too low to parse. Your brain serves helpful suggestions, probably regrets, maybe cookie recipes. Ahead, moonlight slants through a collapsed ceiling. It illuminates a stone pedestal and the thing coiled atop. At first, a rope, then a root, then something muscular and mottled. The coil tightens, squeezing the pedestal until cracks sing like tuning forks. You back away, hips bumping a side table. A bell jar topples, shattering in dream slow motion. Glass shards hang midair, twirling to music only they can hear. Inside, a preserved seahorse floats, its curled tail pointing west. Or maybe just judging your life choices. The coil unspools, thick as your thigh, and slips through a crack in the wall. Nothing follows, except the sudden urge to write a will. Your fingers find a chapel candle in your pocket, stolen when the wick ignites at your touch, which feels both cool and illegal. Flame reveals what the moon hid, names carved into every surface. Not pilgrims, but ships. The Zephyr 1829, Black Aster 1647, SS Hopeful Bastard 1901. Dates without epitaphs. Unless you count the bay's perfect memory, the candle dies, snuffed by air too tired to burn. Somewhere ahead, water drips. Each drop hits a different octave, composing a scale that collapses your knees. You crawl, which feels dignified compared to sobbing. A final door waits, splintered wood held together by sea rust. Through its gaps, movement. Not people, not beasts, just the shudder of something remembered. Your hand lifts, not muscle, not will, just the door swinging first. The door swings, revealing nothing but dark, and the reek of brine gone stale. Your shoe squelches, not on stone, but foam. Pale clumps swell from cracks, shivering mounds that pulse like gelatinous lungs. They burst, spattering your shins, with suds that cling, then sprout tendrils. You shake your leg. The foam slides off, reforming into finger-sized globes. Each floats, quivers, then collapses into the puddled floor. 17th century sailors called these spindrift eyes, logged in ship manifests, alongside storms and Kraken sightings. The British Royal Navy issued a manual on their disposal, right after the chapter on curing rat-based scurvy. Ahead, the corridor slopes into a vaulted chamber. Foam carpets every surface, thigh-high drifts that sigh when prodded. Shapes writhe within, blurred faces pressed against the bubble's skin. Their mouths stretch, but if they scream, the sound stays trapped in lather. You pocket a foam chunk. It melts into viscous slime and whispers, not words, just cadence, the rhythm of a poem you forgot you knew. In 1903, a Parisian perfumer claimed such foam held the essence of drowned songbirds. His shop burned down, but neighbors swore they heard canaries laughing in the flames. The air tastes of wet newspaper, arguing headlines dissolved on your tongue. A face surges near your knee, sharp-chinned, hollow-eyed, dissolving before you name its grief. Another rises, round-cheeked, and laughing, its mirth collapsing into froth. Historians still argue whether these are echoes of the drowned, or the sea's cruel improv. Your sleeve brushes a foam column. It erupts into 1,000 bubbles. Each reflects your face, but in reverse, eyes where your mouth should be. One pops, leaving the scent of a childhood attic, mothballs, and cedar shame. Light bleeds from an unseen source, the color of a bruise ripening. You wade deeper, foam hissing as it parts. Something glints below, a pewter locket nestled in the muck. The clasp opens easily, revealing a portrait eaten by rust, and a single tooth. A bubble bursts overhead, sprinkling your hair with salt. More follow, pop, 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 a staccato baptism. When you blink, the foam's retreated, leaving walls scabbed with barnacles. Their shells form spirals, Fibonacci nightmares that tighten as you stare. Not great decorators were they, you mutter. The wall ripples, shuddering into 1,000 barnacle jaws. They clack once, and still. Smartassery, duly noted. To your left, a tide pool shimmers in the floor. Its surface shows the room inverted, and you're not alone. Dozens of figures wade beside your reflection, hooded, hunched, their limbs elongated by ripples. You freeze, they freeze. You wave, they lift hands ending in stumps. The pool darkens ink, spreading from its center. Shapes dart below, not fish, not eels, just the suggestion of pursuit. A hand breaches skeletal and webbed before dissolving into black. Island legends spoke of kelp-stitched sentries guarding freshwater springs from salt's corruption. Tourism pamphlets dubbed them the Wellness Brigade. Hence the ill-advised 1998 spa opening. Your pocket buzzes. The stolen candle vibrates like a trapped hornet. It leaps out, rolls toward an archway, and stops. Classic horror etiquette demanding you follow the breadcrumbs. Beyond the arch, a circular room, and a ceiling lost to foam. It drips in sync with your pulse, plink, 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 into a central basin. The liquid within swirls, never spilling, its surface etched with silver veins. You dip a finger, the fluid parts, revealing an eye below. Blue iris, bloodshot sclera, lidless and unblinking. It watches as the liquid climbs your wrist, coiling like a living tattoo. Hard pass, you say, shaking it off. Drops hit the foam, each birthing a shrieking face that silences mid-cry. The basin drains with a gurgle, leaving behind a shard of blue glass. Pocketing, it feels like theft from a specific afterlife. A seam splits the far wall, oozing black ichor. It parts gently, revealing a stairwell descending into bedrock. The foam recoils from its edges, as if the darkness burns. Your last joke dies unsaid, heavy as a keystone. The candle flame gutters, then leaps 3 inches high, a golden middle finger to physics. You descend because what's one more bad decision in a day? The foam sighs and starts regrowing the moment your heel leaves the step. The stairs surrender to a seabed of silt, each step sinking deeper than the last. Saltwater laps at your knees now, though no tide pool warned you. Your candle's flame burns underwater. Because of course it does, logic checked out at the first barnacle. The hymn hits before you see its source, a basso rumble in your molars, then higher notes fluttering your ribcage. Kelp curtains part, revealing shadows swaying in the deep. Not people, not fish, just silhouettes stretched by currents, their mouths open, silver bubbles rising. But the song swells from below. Your jaw unclenches, tongue flattening, as if shaping words not your own. 9th century monks perfected this kind of harmony, Gregorian chants, designed to vibrate through stone. A tendril brushes your ankle, smooth as polished driftwood. It pulses in time with the lower register, a living metronome. Small fish dart, bioluminescent dots, sketching sheet music across the dark. You inhale briny air that shouldn't exist, lungs burning with the urge to hum along. One silhouette breaks formation, drifts closer. Its face flickers, a blurred projection on water. Coral sprouts where eyes should be, staghorn branches brittle with dried algae. The voice inside your skull sharpens, a mezzo-soprano recounting eclipse dates from 1348. Are you auditioning me? You croak. The coral face tilts, a single crab leg falling from its cheek. It dissolves mid-plunge, becoming notes in the greater score. 14th century music theorists claimed perfect pitch could be learned by sleeping in tide pools. The crab disagrees. Pressure builds behind your ears a pop, and the lyrics clarify. Not Latin, not any tongue, just vowels stretched like taffy. They tell of caves where seconds pool into centuries of stone, absorbing the sobs of scuttled ships. Historians still argue whether the siren maps of 1523 depicted real choirs or drunken cartographers' dreams. A bass note shakes the seabed. Your fillings hum in solidarity. Sediment swirls, forming a makeshift conductor's podium. You half expect a shrimp in a tuxedo to appear. But the kelp takes the role, waving in a frantic 3/4 tempo. The flame gutters, now the size of a match head. Shadows press closer, their coral jaws hinging wide. Each holds a pearl or a tooth or a tiny spinning globe. One spits its treasure, a marble clinking against your boot. Picking it up, you glimpse New York City's skyline, circa 1982. Hindsight's 2020. You mutter, pocketing the anomaly. The choir crescendos, a chord so dense it feels gravitational. Your ribs resonate, sternum buzzing like a plucked rubber band. Somewhere above, the Priory's bell groans, its iron shuddering in sympathy. Lights flicker turquoise, then blood red, then the gold of desert horizons. The silhouettes disintegrate, reforming as whales, then drowned clock towers, then a fleet of burning galleons. Musicologists in the 70s swore they'd recorded aquatic plainsong off the Azores, but the tapes melted en route to Cambridge. Your fingers brush a kelp stalk. It shivers into dust. The hymn stumbles, loses key, becomes a nursery rhyme hummed through a broken kazoo. The candle flares its flame, painting SOS signals on the cave roof. Shadows retreat, their pearl teeth clattering like dropped silverware. You surface gasping, knees slamming into Priory stone. Dry land feels wrong, tilted, like the floor's still breathing. The candles just wax now, dribbling over your fingers without burning. Somewhere below, the choir mutters into a coda, off-key and distinctly petty. Monks used to claim these caves housed angelic hosts. You've met angels there, about as gracious as cats in rain. The air smells of bergamot and wet dog. An improvement on brine. Steps lead upward, either back to the chapel or into worse metaphors. One bubble rises from the flooded stairwell, its surface iridescent. It bursts against your cheek, leaving the taste of an apology or indigestion, hard to tell with divine hiccups. You ascend, humming a scale that keeps slipping into careless harmonies. The walls thrum back, but politely, like neighbors tolerating a midnight piano session. The bell's final toll hangs in your teeth, a metallic hum that bends your knees. You grip the ferry's rail, weathered wood undercut by splinters and centuries of salt. Ahead, the shadowed prow cuts through ink-black waves, but there's no wake, like the water's stitching itself closed behind you. He stands where he always has, hooded, motionless, gloved hands fused to the helm. You've counted 13 breaths since boarding, or 73. Time here braids itself into knots. His cloak sags, soaked through, though no spray touches the deck. Historians still argue whether medieval ferrymen really charged souls a coin, or something harder to reclaim. A gull cries, or something gull-shaped. It banks west toward where the mainland should be. Your phone's in your pocket, dead since the first bell. You imagine the lock screen, 3:17 a.m. Perfect witching hour tourist bait. The ferryman's head tilts a fraction, as if hearing your sarcasm. His voice arrives sideways, not through ears, but bones. Rest now. 2 words, but your joints loosen like unspooled thread. Knees buckle, you catch yourself on a coil of damp rope. It squirms, live eel, or braided seaweed, but steadies you. Lanterns flicker, sulfur yellow, and reeking of bad eggs. 13th century, boatmen burned the stuff to repel river spirits. Didn't work great. The Rhine's full of stories about sulfur-smelling phantoms. You cough. The haze curdles into something that clings to your molars. Is this seat taken? You ask the nearest bench, slatted, barnacled, probably older than Shakespeare. No answer. You sit anyway, the wood groaning like an old dog. The bench shifts, adjusting to your weight. You swear at size. Fog thickens, chilled gauze dragging across your cheeks. The engine's hum drops an octave, the sound of a wolf pretending to snore. Waves slap the hull, irregular now, like the seas forgetting how to be wet. The ferryman turns hood, gaping into void. You're suddenly certain he's smiling. One glove lifts, peels back, revealing a hand whittled from driftwood. Joints click as he points starboard. A shape breaks the surface, sleek, pale, longer than the boat. Mermaid. You ask, too tired to sound skeptical. The hand rotates, palm up, fingers curling like a dying spider. The shape dives, leaving a spiral of foam. 18th century sailors blamed narwhals on drunken carpenters. But you're not ruling out taxidermy mistakes. Something clanks below deck's chains. Anchors. A really ambitious crab. The ferryman's sleeve brushes your shoulder, weightless as spider silk. Your eyelids dip, blurring the horizon into a watercolor smear. The bench beneath you softens, now moss-stuffed, now down-feathered. Traitorous furniture. A cold thumb presses your forehead, right where stress headaches bloom. The world tilts, horizon vertical now, waves climbing like ivy. The thumb drags down, sealing your eyes. Behind the lids, constellations rearranging into snide remarks. Don't suppose you take feedback, you mumble. His silence costs extra. Dreams well up, not yours. A monk penning love letters to a squid. A lighthouse keeper trading jokes with the fog. A child dropping coins into tidal pools, hoping to buy back drowned things. Your spine melts into the bench vertebrae, puddled like candle wax. The ferry creaks, a lullaby in Morse code. Somewhere beyond the fog, a bell answers, or maybe it's your own pulse, slowing to match the deep, dumb heart of the sea. The last thing you taste is rust, or blood, or the memory of an apple bitten years ago. Doesn't matter. Rest isn't a request here. The ferryman's glove returns, stitching your shadow to the deck, as darkness unspools its velvet fist. The dream arrives wet, kelp-strangled, and barnacled. You're walking a beach made of hair, blonde strands tangled with fishhooks and Roman coins. A crab scuttles past wearing Napoleon's hat, or maybe a dried squid. Hard to tell. The air reeks of low tide and diesel, your two least favorite colognes. Laughter bubbles up, not yours. A trio of mermaids lounge on a melted ice floe. One files her nails with a shark's tooth. Another fans herself with a papyrus map. The third holds a conch to her ear. Renaissance fairs got it wrong, she declares. Tights chafe underwater. You nod, dream, you finds this profoundly wise. A wave deposits a four-poster bed at your feet. Its sheets ripple, live eels woven into linen. You lie down anyway, the mattress sighs, a sound you last heard exiting your college futon. Pillows smell of lavender and Viking longship tar. Historians confirm Norse sailors stuffed bedding with dried seaweed. But they missed the part where it whispers. The mermaids start harmonizing a sea shanty about tax evasion. Their scales flash IRS auditred. 18th century smugglers used fake whale songs to throw off customs ships. You hum along out of tune, but the eel sheets vibrate approval. Shadows thicken, liquid tar pooling in your left ear. A lighthouse blinks Morse code, abandon Dow Jones. Invest in driftwood futures. You salute because dream logic demands it. Your hand comes back webbed. Something tugs your ankle, a wristwatch sunk in the sand. Its face shows a ship sinking, then a mushroom cloud, then a puppy video. Time's gotten flexible here. You pocket it. The tide licks your shins, cold as a lawyer's handshake. A whale breaches its belly, stenciled with cave paintings. Lusco bison chase a woolly mammoth through its ribcage. Scholars still debate whether Ice Age artists used mammoth milk as paint binder. You yell, try oat milk. The whale winks, or maybe blinks krill from its eye. The beach unravels strands of hair now vipers knotting themselves into ladders. You climb. Rungs crumble into hermit crabs. Their shells hum show tunes, Phantom of the Opera, in a minor key. At the top, a carousel made of ship wheels. Horses replaced by manatees with saddlebags full of mothballs. You mount a sea cow. It moos low and sad, like a tuba filled with tears. The carousel spins. Moon snails rain down, each shell a tiny gramophone. They spin Billie Holiday records. You're crying now. No, laughing. Or maybe just seasick. A wave swallows the carousel. You sink, mouth full of piano keys. Hands fumble for the surface. But down is up here. Your lungs bloom into jellyfish. Thoughts diffuse schools of translucent minnows darting through your skull. A shadow eclipses the sun, a galleon's hull, draped in bioluminescent moss. Its figurehead's face shifts, your mother, then Stalin, then a YouTube reactor you watched once. Fancy meeting you here, it purrs. Bring any snacks. You offer the Viking seaweed pillow. The ship devours it, splintering, wood teeth grinding. Authentic, it roars. I'll take 20. Dark sails billow with your mother's old perfume. Historians still argue whether ghost ships were mass hallucinations or just clever tax havens. Something pricks your thumb, a fishing hook baited with an engagement ring. You reel it in. The line leads nowhere. The ring fits. Of course it does. A walrus in a judge's wig slaps a desk. Objection sustained. It bellows. The dream applauds. The mermaids return riding jet skis shaped like papal mitres. One tosses you a lei made of cinnamon sticks and plutonium. For the road, she says. You're pretty sure this voids the warranty on your soul. Tide recedes, stranding you in a cave where walls pulse like a throat. Stalactites drip something that glows when you apologize to it. Your shadow's missing, still nailed to the ferry's deck, probably. A gramophone snail slithers close. Fun fact, it whispers, moon snails can drill through clam shells in minutes. Its needle scratches out a lullaby. You curl into a spiral, sleeping within sleep. As the dream's edges dissolve into static, the static solidifies, rough stone against your cheek. Priory walls tower, not surrounding you, containing you. Their surface ripples, an optical illusion. No, the granite actually breathes. Each inhalation sucks torchlight into pores. Exhalation steams wood rot and incense. You press a palm to cold rock. A heartbeat thrums through mortar made from milk. 13th century monks blended goat's milk with lime plaster, rebuilding after every Viking raid. The mix hardened faster than grudges. But this hums. Your fingers come away sticky, smelling of chamomile and burnt sugar. Restoration crew used honey, you mutter. The wall exhales, dousing your joke in mildew air. A floorboard creaks uphill. You turn, hallway undulates like a sleeper's flank. Flagstones click and shift, grinding molars in a giant's jaw. Ever tried yoga breath techniques? The Priory's a natural, 4 seconds in, 7 seconds out. Makes your own lungs feel amateur. Moonlight bleeds through arrow slits. It slicks the walls, revealing carvings swallowed by day. A procession of figures robed, but their faces, elongated jaws, hollow eyes, hands clutching what might be keys or fishhooks. Monks depicted their nightmares for 7 generations. Historians still argue whether these are demonic visions or just really unflattering portraits of the bishop. You lean closer. A carved tendril brushes your ear stone cold, yet pliant as seaweed. Lloyd's Pharmacy, it whispers, pure Boston accent. Your 3rd grade bus driver's name surfaces, irrelevant, yet urgent. The urge to laugh bubbles up, stifled, as the walls contract violently. Air thickens, saturated with lily pollen and wet dog. Your college dorm flashbacks intensify. A stained glass window shudders, depicting Saint Someone disemboweling a squid. The glass squid's eyes follow you, then cross comically. Medieval glaziers slipped jokes into sacred art. Find the happy little demon in Chartres Cathedral's north transept. This one's less subtle. Your soles stick to the floor, not sap, something gelatinous. Each step makes moist schlucks that echo a century later. 12 paces in, a fresco appears, flaking pigments, showing monks tilling fields. But their crops are teeth, rows of molars sprouting like mushrooms. One grinning brother holds a watering can labeled Aqua Regia. The walls sigh, a chorus of deflating air mattresses. Dust rains down. You catch a flake on your tongue, tastes of birch bark, and stage fright. 8th century Irish scribes chewed birch twigs while transcribing Bibles, nervous habit. Your molars buzz, the Priory's breath sinks to your pulse now. Thump schluck, ahead a door swollen in its frame. Its iron handles shaped like a sleeping carp. You grasp it, fish scales prickle your palm. Behind you, stones grind a corridor contracting like a throat. The door sticks, then relents with a moan. Inside, blackness reeking of wet wool and pennyroyal. Your outstretched hand hits something yielding, a hanging sack. It emits a damp laugh. 13 strands of braided hair brush your wrist, red as Edinburgh sandstone. 7 knots per braid, each humming a different pitch. Some say medieval anchorites wove their hair into prayer harnesses. Others insist it's bullion smuggling, disguised as heresy. You step back, heels squelching. The sack exhales, its breath warm, cloying, like soured hydromel. A moth flutters from your collar, drawn to the scent. It alights on the braids, bursting into blue flame. Sudden light reveals shelves lining the walls, jars of pickled things. One holds a tangled mass that could be roots or veins. Another floats a human tongue, still twitching. A label reads Abbot Anselm's glossolalia. Do not shake. The floor undulates. You stumble against a desk crusted with wax. A ledger lies open, entries in dense Latin, except where someone's doodled cartoon serpents. Your finger traces a phrase. Somnus non est mortis imago. Sleep is not the image of death, you whisper. The wall behind hisses, debatable. Something warm drips on your neck. not water, the ceiling's sweating yolk-thick resin. It webs between your fingers. Rub it, slick as olive oil, then gritty. Your phone flashlight, when did you grab that? Reveals golden particles suspended in amber. Priory's hoarded Phoenician glass-making secrets, their gold-infused window panes lost to Cromwell's hammers. This feels older, angrier. The door slams, fish handle rattling. Braid sack sways, casting witchy shadows. Your breath quickens, the walls match it, panting now. Flagstones heave, a stone tile flips upright, revealing an octopus. No, a mop head petrified mid-swipe. Nuns of Saint Ephemia allegedly tamed cephalopods for floor scrubbing. You kick it. Dust rolls up, forming a tiny storm cloud that whimpers. Blue flame moths swirl, landing on your shoulders. Their light dims, brightens, synced to the walls, labored breath. You count seconds between heartbeats, 3, 7, 2. Arrhythmia of the sacred. Underfoot, the floor softens, wood fibers parting like tired muscle. A tile cracks, spider leg fissures racing toward the desk. The ledger flips pages wildly. Sparagmos, nepenthe, repos, allures, phrases blur into a growling lullaby. You're humming along unbidden as the walls press close. Showtime. First pillar on the left shivers, shedding flakes like dried skin. Beneath, flesh-pink sandstone. It pulses, veins of quartz contracting. Your moth light glints off mica, countless tiny eyes opening. Historians still argue whether Cistercian architecture channeled divine breath, or just really bad foundation drainage. Answers scritching behind your sternum now, a moth's legs tracing the truth on your ribs. The stones yield, each step tilts, to cradle your heel like a lover's palm. Slick doesn't cover it. These stairs gleam with the sheen of 1,000 surrendered souls. 13th century pilgrims called them soapstone slumbers, quarried from a vanished Baltic mine. Your toes skid, catch skid, yet somehow you ascend. Gravity's taken a coffee break, or maybe the stairwell's exhaling upward. Ahead, moonlight gutters through a crack in the cliff. It slices the dark into thin silver shards. One grazes your wrist, colder than ice, sharper than regret. You glance back. The ferry's gone, swallowed by brine fog. Only the taste of diesel lingers, ghost of a midnight road trip. The 7th step groans, a bass note thrumming through bone. Legends claim monks embedded shards of Santiago de Compostella's bells here. Foundations built on holy tinnitus. You press your palm to the wall, it pulses back. Syncopated, arrhythmic, like a Spotify playlist shuffling between Gregorian chants and dubstep. Air thickens, scented with wet parchment and the tart sting of blackberry wine. Your calf muscles hum, not burning, vibrating. As if you're climbing a down escalator, a nervous laugh escapes, echoes twist into something resembling a Kyrie eleison. Above, the Priory door looms, its oak planks warped into a grimace. 2 paces left. The final stairs etched with overlapping circles, a spiral of blurred footmarks. Historians still argue whether these erosions are natural or the world's most passive-aggressive maze. You pause. The cliffside sighs, spray misting your ankles. Salt crystallizes instantly, anklets of brittle stars. The door handle's missing. In its place, a knotted rope slick with algae. Pulling it feels like handshaking an eel. Some claim medieval porters greased entrances to weed out half-hearted devotees. You yank harder, rope fibers squealing like chastised children. Hinges scream. The door falls inward, crashing onto a floor of is that cork. Smells like a kombucha brewery's basement. Your first step sinks an inch, floorboards flexing like a trampoline. A chandelier flickers, candles made of lard. They sputter greasy rainbows. To the left, a mural of shipwrecks painted in squid ink. To the right, a stack of hourglasses, sand frozen mid-fall. Straight ahead, a corridor curving into shadow. Its walls ripple, you're pretty sure that's not a draft. Welcome home, croaks a raven perched on a rusted lectern. Its beak clacks, sparking flint red in the gloom. You open your mouth, the bird tilts its head. Save the small talk, buttercup. They're waiting. Your soles peel off the cork with a sound like duct tape regrets. The corridor narrows, ceiling shrinking, until you're hunched like a question mark. Stones here ooze a viscous gel, self-healing mortar from a 9th century Saxon recipe. Touch it, cool, slightly minty. Rub it between fingers, texture of expired face cream. A draft whispers through arrow slits, carrying a tune too jaunty for the century. You catch a lyric snippet. The abbot's got a fig's end fennel pie metaphysical calorie. Must be the kitchen vent. Monks debated whether gluttony applied to metaphysical indulgences. Council of Rheims, 1324. The raven cackles, black feathers drifting like burnt confetti. Light ahead, flickering through a beaded curtain, each bead's a carved vertebra. They click-clack as you push through, sound of a xylophone played by a skeleton. Beyond, a circular room. Dome ceiling coated in bioluminescent barnacles. Their blue glow stains your skin like old ink. A table dominates the space, strewn with unlit candles, chess pieces, and a wilting celery stalk. No chairs, just a single 3-legged stool upholstered in is that human hair. The raven lands on the celery. Sit, it rasps. Time to choose. Your knees buckle, not obedience, exhaustion. The stool shuffles to meet you, legs clicking like a loyal crab. It's warmer than expected, almost alive. You glance up, dome barnacles pulse faster. Patterns emerging, a face, a map, an over-enthusiastic Rorschach test. The raven drops a walnut at your feet. Inside, a scroll no larger than a matchstick. Unfurling it strains your sanity and your fingertips. Text shimmers, glagolitic script mixed with doodles of winged turnips. You squint. Slavic monks allegedly hid herbalism secrets in garden gospels. This smells of dill and desperation. A gong reverberates, walls ripple, stool legs skitter sideways. The barnacles dim. From the shadows glides a figure robed in what might be silk or spider webs. Hands clasped, fingers too long, joints too numerous. Hooded face tilts. You see only teeth. Not the horror movie kind. These are perfect chiclets, dentist ad level. They've eaten the offering, the figure size. Voice like a theremin lullaby. Find the hive. Follow the moths. Mind the welder. You blink. Questions queue up, VIPs at a velvet rope, but the barnacles flare, drowning the room in cobalt static. When vision returns, you're alone. Stool gone. Raven gone. Only the walnut remains, now a perfect polished sphere. Pocket it. Feels heavier than lead, lighter than guilt. The corridor behind sealed, moss sealing the archway. Ahead, a spiral stairwell. Steps spiral down, or is it up? Your compass apps spinning like a dog chasing its tail. Time to pick a direction. Left foot first, always left. First step, your boot sinks into the stone. Not a trap, an embrace. The stair remembers your weight, maybe from another pilgrimage. Maybe next Tuesday. Air here tastes of static and spearmint. You ascend sideways. Gravity's getting creative. A sound rises, not song, not buzz, somewhere between. The moths surge forward, blue flames brightening to white. Their light bounces off walls slick with condensation or sweat. The stairs end abruptly at a bricktub arch. Mortars fresh enough to dent. You press an ear to cold bricks. Something hums, the key of B-flat and regret. The walnut heats in your palm. Cracks thin as hairline fractures. Smoke curls out, spelling words in a language your spine understands. Push, it says. Push anyway. You brace, shoulder to damp masonry. Bricks shiver, then dissolve like salt in broth. The wall becomes a curtain, becomes a memory. Beyond, a vaulted chamber lit by jars of captive lightning. Wooden hives line the walls, their honeycomb cells pulsing amber. Species, unclear. But the buzzing's translating itself. Welcome, it drones. To the real reception, you tread the gravel path. Each crunch echoes like a snapped wishbone. Ahead, shadows coalesce into rows of robed forms. Their hoods hang slack, no faces, just voids sipping the moonlight. Historians note 9th century Benedictines took vows of silence, communicated through coded hand signs. Your left foot skids on a stone. Their gloves snap upward, palms out, fingers splayed, the gestures crisp like a traffic cop halting Eurotrash at the Sistine Chapel. One figure tilts its head, silk robe whispering secrets only moths understand. Medieval sign language had 97 signals, most for pass the salt or flatulent friars, yet some insist gestures mapped constellations, finger dances guiding star-drunk pilgrims. You mimic their stance, hands raised like surrender. The nearest robe rustles, approval or mockery, hard to tell with cuffs, embroidered like emergency exit signs. A breeze snakes through the procession, carrying bergamot and a hint of WD-40. The figures pivot as one, sleeves flaring to reveal arms too slender, too jointed. Their fingers ripple, a semaphore routine that give tech bros hives. 3 flicks, a twist, hold for 5 beats. Feels familiar, like the Macarena after 3 melatonin gummies. They're welcoming you, murmurs a voice from your collar, the ferryman's bell charm. Must, hitched a ride, or sizing up your bone density. Flip a coin. Your laugh dies when the frontmost figure extends a hand palm up. Nail beds glint. Are those hydraulic fittings? Its pinky twitches, a gesture once banned by papacy decree. Historians still argue whether Cistercian signs shaped Masonic codes or just improved cafeteria efficiency. Tonight, the motion says follow, with a side of or else. Steps quicken yours and theirs. The path becomes cobblestones worn smooth by 5 centuries of pilgrim knees. Renaissance devotees slid here in silk hose, knees raw as butcher's scraps. You sidestep a moss patch, hoods swivel to track the evasion. Message received, no shortcuts in the hooded host's choreography. Light blooms ahead, a gate twisted into thorned runes. The figures halt. One produces a key shaped like a wishbone. Metal creaks, a sound retired dragons make during yoga. The gates part, revealing a courtyard choked with headless statues. Their necks ooze liquid moonlight. Mind the welder. The charm whispers, then crumbles to rust. Your left finger tingles. A tattoo flickers into view, moth wing outlined in glow ink. The robed ones retreat like smoke in reverse. Ahead, the Priory door looms, carved with a beehive motif. Golden syrup drips from the keystone, smells like bedtime stories and tax audits. A handprint glows where the knocker should be. Yours fits perfect. The wood doesn't open so much as unclench. Cold slaps your face, a slap that should leave frost on your eyelashes, but the chill retreats, warmed by gusts, rising through floor cracks. Your soles meet stone so cold it steals breath, January pavement through threadbare socks. Yet 3 steps in that warmth swirls up, stale air, blasted from underfoot. Roman hypocausts used similar vents, hot air from furnaces bathing villa floors. But here, the heat's tinged with mildew, and something vegetal, like forgotten sauerkraut. Torchlight gutters, flames strangled by the cold. Shadows leap across tapestries so faded, reds bleached to salmon pinks, golds to jaundice. One drape shows monks harvesting honey, bees the size of thumbs. Another, blackened where candle sparks kissed it too often. Your guidebook mentioned 14th century wax thieves. Irradiated residue from fermented goat cheese polishes. The air smells of beeswax and indecision. You pivot, spotting grooves in the floor, narrow channels cut into granite, steam rising through hairline gaps. Historians still argue whether these ducts were spiritual tech, channeling earth breath, or just lazy engineering. The warmth hits your ankles, then retreats like a passive-aggressive hug. Between the vents, slabs wear 5 centuries of heel scrapes, pilgrim grooves, or escape routes for sentient tile microbes. Choose wisely, don't lick the walls, mumbles the ferryman's voice, now buzzing from your left molar. Unless you fancy tasting 7th century mortar spiked with oxytocin. Ahead, the hall stretches, buttressed arches ribbing the ceiling like a stone whale, each column's carved with spiral patterns, DNA helixes, if Gutenberg did doodles. Your breath fogs, lingers, then gets vacuumed into a vent. The floor exhales again, this time reeking of peat smoke and dental cement. Something crunches underfoot, you freeze. Glance down. Rose petals, freeze-dried and mummified. They scatter toward a central hearth, catching torchlight like false promises. At the hearth's rim, a stone basin holds blackened sticks, or bones, or both. You crouch fingering a petal. It disintegrates, powder drifting into a vent. The hearth flickers, not with flame, but something liquid, mercury bright and nervous. Catalogers once claimed medieval alchemists brewed eternal light. Here, bioluminescent mushroom extract stewed in lead. The glow throbs, casting your shadow 3 ways. One shadow waves. You don't wave back. A draft snakes from behind, clammy fingers through your hair. The hall's entrance groans shut, wood screaming, like a coffin pried open after dessert. The carvings above the door twist, vines becoming serpents, becoming cursive Latin that becomes cartoon ducks. Scholars go full MMA over whether Norse invaders graffitied here, or bored novices with shaky chisels. The floor vents hum a sound felt in molars. Your earlobe pops. The hearth's liquid light dims, flaring again as you step closer. Heat cascades now, so thick it oils your skin. Your pupils sting. Wisps of hair levitate, then drop defeated by medieval HVAC. You tap the nearest wall, stone replying with a subsonic purr. Travertine, or maybe limestone, hopped up on volcanic grit. 7th century stonemasons mixed powdered mammoth ivory into mortar, at least according to Baltic metal bands. The wall thrums like a slipped guitar string. They cooked a saint in that hearth, says the ferryman's voice, now lodged in your sinuses. Allegedly. Grill marks included. Tip your waitress. The hearth's light pulses faster, an arrhythmia. You count the flickers, lose track at 37, or maybe 12. Time here's been through the spin cycle. Above, cobwebs sag, with dust centuries thick. One strand detaches, floats into a vent, becomes somebody else's problem. A sound, half hiss, half yawn, comes from the gloom ahead. Your left shoe unties itself. The laces writhe, then still. You consider mentioning this, but the hall's already judging your life choices. Pink mist gathers near the ceiling, condensing into droplets that never fall. Your neck prickles. The floor's warmth ebbs, replaced by a draft skimming your scalp. Somewhere, a pipe rattles, then sighs. You reach the hearth, its basin brimming with that quicksilver glow. Heat ripples bend the air, making your hands look melted. Stare too long, the light resolves into shapes, a rose, a crown, a noose, a fractal winking out. says the ferryman, barely audible over the hum. Staring contest with unstable isotopes never ends well. Trust the guy who's half cesium. Your knees creak, lowering you onto a stone bench that wasn't there before. It's warm, suspiciously so, like the rocks in saunas that give awkward back sweat. The hearth's glow pulses slower now, syncing with your breath. Or is it the other way? A yawn cracks your jaw, so wide it could fit a medieval plague mask. The hall yawns back, ceiling groaning as rafters stretch. Torch flames droop like tired tulips. Your eyelids follow suit. Your eyelids flutter, stuck halfway between awake and that jello brain limbo. Something trills, high metallic. A dentist's drill doing opera. Blinking crust away, you focus on a cage hanging above a stone font. Inside, a nightingale. Its feathers hold every shade of black, like Vanta black with good PR. The font beneath ripples, obsidian polished to liquid mirrors. Your reflection wavers, forks into 3, then 7, fracturing your face across impossible angles. One, you smirking. Another looks ready to sob. The nightingale tilts its head, tiny eyes capturing all versions. Confessions cheaper here, says the ferryman's voice, now buzzing from your fillings. No priests, just a bird who tweets your sins, subtweet style. You lean closer, fond air smells of wet ink and burnt marshmallow. Historians note medieval monasteries trained nightingales to mimic Latin chants, or at least the vibe. This one opens its beak, a warble that hits your sternum. The vibrations unlock something. Words spill out in reverse. I lied about feeding Mrs. McGillicuddy's goldfish, you blurt. The bird blinks. Your confession hangs, twists into vapor, drips into the font. The obsidian sizzles, steam smelling like shame and cheap cologne. A plaque on the cage reads Miserere, may technically have mercy on me. But the ferryman whispers, loosely translates to spill the tea, sis. The nightingale pecks its perch, each click echoing through your molars. You remember 7th century Persians believed birds carried souls mid-migration. This one stare suggests it's heard it all crusader gossip. Shield maiden side hustles, forbidden muffin recipes. Another warble. Your throat tightens. I pretended to like my ex's mixtape. The font bubbles. Steam forms a tiny storm cloud above it. Lightning flickers, micro jolts that crisp your arm hairs. The bird ruffles its feathers, decidedly unimpressed. Scholars still argue whether these feather confessors therapized medieval nobles or just recorded blackmail. Your knees hit cold stone, not by choice. The nightingale hops closer, beak glinting. Fine, I ate the last dumpling and blamed the dog. The font erupts, obsidian tears spattering your jeans. The bird tilts its head, then vomits a shimmering grain into the basin. Rice, pearl, ancient tic-tac. The ferryman snorts. Congrats, absolution looks like a hairball. Don't spend it all in 1 century. You glance at the font, clouded now, with every secret you've hoarded. Grocery store, punches pulled, birthdays forgotten. time you torrented Celine Dion, live in Las Vegas. The nightingale trills, its song slicks your guilt with bubble wrap. A hidden mechanism clunks. The cage dips, submerging the bird in inky liquid. It reemerges, dry, judging you harder. A wing flicks, spattering your cheek with font water. It tastes like redemption and expired kombucha. Some nun's diary claimed nightingales, here whispered cryptograms, map coordinates to saintly stashes. You lean in. Got any stock tips? The bird defecates elegantly, a white streak down the obsidian. Solid investor advice, says the ferryman. Better than my 401k. The font stills, your fractured reflections merge into one. The nightingale preens, then snaps at a speck of dust. Its final note lingers, a sound felt in your marrow. You stand lighter, though your socks are damp with holy bird juice. The cage creaks, swaying as you walk away. Behind you, the font bubbles anew. Someone else's secrets to boil. Moonlight bleeds through jagged holes above, roof tiles, long since surrendered to ivy's chokehold. You shuffle forward, boots crunching mosaic shards beneath. The saints aren't saints anymore, just headless statues wearing ivy like shackles. Their marble fingers clutch at nothing, or maybe at the faint hymns still trapped in the air. Black blossoms droop from ceiling vines, globs of nectar trembling at their tips. The scent hits you, rotting cherries dunked in honey, and your knees buckle. Not metaphorically, you're on all fours now, palms pressed to stone colder than a mortal sin. Historians love mentioning how medieval cloisters grew medicinal herbs. Rosemary, for memory, chamomile, for calm. This garden skipped the herbalist phase, went straight to Gothic perfume counter. A droplet lands on your neck thick, tepid, staining your collar. You touch it, fingers come away shimmering. Motor oil from Eden, mutters the ferryman's voice, somewhere between your left eardrum and last brain cell. The nectar pools, reflecting fractured moonlight in greasy rainbows. 10th century Bavarian nuns once claimed sap from midnight flowers could cure cowardice. The jury's out, but your tongue's already darting out for a taste. Bad move. It floods your mouth, battery acid wrapped in velvet. You gag, doubling over as ivy slithers across your ankle. The vines tighten, not hostile, just clingy. Above, a petal detaches, spiraling down to land in your hair. Its edges glow faintly, like obsidian held to a match. The breeze shifts, carrying a rasp from deeper in the cloister. Dry leaves scrape stone, or is it laughter? You squint, spotting a crumbling archway. Beyond it, shadowy shapes that might be topiaries, or hunched figures playing freeze tag. Scholarly debates rage over whether these gardens nurtured souls or just hid bodies. Right now, you'd vote bodies. You rise, ivy releasing you with a wet schlup. Crushed petals smear underfoot, slick as banana peels. Each step squelches, sending up whiffs of fermented pollen. Your lungs feel fuzzy, like you've chain-smoked ghostly cigars. A thorn snags your sleeve, tugging you toward a stone bench, its seats carved with symbols, Celtic knots devouring their own tails. Sit. You don't remember deciding to. The bench leaches warmth from your thighs, its chill climbing your spine. Above, moonlight stripes your face through the broken roof. The ivy's restless, leaves shivering, though there's no wind. 14th century groundskeeper diaries mention communes with sentient flora, probably ergot poisoning, but maybe not. A blossom drips onto the bench nectar, spreading like spilled ink. Letters form, swirl, dissolve. Latin, Greek, emoji hieroglyphs. The ferryman chuckles, a gravelly purr vibrating your molars. Don't bother, it's just the plants shitposting. You lean back, head thunking against a saint's hip bone. Moss pillows the impact, suspiciously plush. The cloister arches frame slices of sky, stars smeared like wet mascara. Your eyelids sag, nectars scent now a weighted blanket. Somewhere glass shatters, or maybe a chandelier of ice melting, doesn't matter. The ivy's humming now, a subsonic buzz that unknots your shoulders. 2 petals land in your lap, shaped like anatomical hearts. Their veins pulse, black light throbbing in time with your carotid. You pocket one. It seeps through the fabric coolness, spreading across your thigh. The ferryman sighs, half fond, half exasperated. Tourists always try to steal the decor. Standing feels impossible, so you slide sideways, sprawling on the bench. Above the moons, a cataract eye staring through the ruins. The ivies reached your wrist again, tendrils coiling like possessive bracelets. A droplet lands on your lip, swift-footed and briny. Salt, the tears of saints, or just the ferryman messing with a spray bottle. Doesn't matter. Your breath slows, matching the drip, drip, drip of nectar hitting stone. A statue's severed hand lies nearby, index finger raised. Warning, invitation, medieval mood ring. The debate continues without you. Your thoughts mush ivy scent and stare it, filling the cracks. The ferryman's voice fades, drowned out by roots threading through the silence. You close your eyes just for a second. When they open, dawn bleeds through the broken ceiling. The ivies retreated, blossoms withered to ash. Your clothes reek of petrichor, and something muskier regrets gym locker. The bench symbols glow faintly, heatless and green. You stand, joints popping like bubble wrap. A thorn pricks your palm, its sting sharp, clarifying. The path ahead glistens, petal pulp smeared into arrows pointing onward. Somewhere, a bell tolls, or maybe your eardrums just gave up. Either way, time to shuffle toward whatever's next. The petal arrows lead you to a sunken circle, moss-cloaked stones cradling darkness deeper than the cliffs outside. A wrought iron crank tilts overhead, its chain vanished into the well's throat. You lean over the edge, rotten wood creaks under your grip, and peer down. Water glimmers 20 feet below, a black mirror, refusing the dawn's pink intrusion. Your face floats there, then wrinkles, then melts into features you've never worn. A woman's eyes, kohl-rimmed and furious, mouthing threats in a dead dialect. 9th century monastic wells often doubled as sin mirrors, scrying pools for confessional theatrics. This one's less forgive me, Father, and more possessed viewmaster. A droplet falls, plink, shattering the vision. New faces bloom, a child missing front teeth, a soldier clutching a bayoneted rose, an old man weeping into his beard. Their lips move, soundless pleas rising with the water's mineral stink. You shiver, not from cold, but the certainty that these aren't metaphors. That Bavarian nun's diary we mentioned. She swore well water could archive souls like parchment. Most scholars call it liturgical fanfiction, but your knuckles whiten on the rim anyway. The ferryman materializes, elbow propped on the crank. Don't jump, he drawls. Retrieving tourists voids the warranty. His breath smells of licorice and diesel, a combo that shouldn't work, but kinda does. The chain sways, a rusty whine as the bucket emerges, crusted with algae, and are those tooth fragments. You dip a hand, water sluices through your fingers, icier than a witch's goodwill. The faces return pressing against the surface like aquarium glass. One has your dimple, your cowlick, your scar from that bike crash at 12. Historians still argue whether these wells recorded memories or just reflected moonlight. The answer's both, and neither, and currently nibbling your cuticle. They're hungry, the ferryman says, snapping his fingers. The visions scatter, not for flesh, for echo chamber stuff, grudges, regrets. That time you lied about eating the last fig Newton. He grins, all tobacco-stained enamel. Basically, they want your cringe compilation. You swipe the bucket, water sloshes over your boots. The liquid clings, slimy and eager, as if trying to climb your calves. A face erupts in the puddle, a priest, with a poet's soul patch sewn over one eye. His chant drills your skull, memento, mori memento, mori memento. Knock it off. The ferryman barks, stomping the puddle. The water retreats, hissing. His boot sole smokes. Drama queens, he mutters, every damned time. You retreat back, hitting a menhir carved with eroded serpents. The well gurgles, a wet, mocking noise. Pennsylvania's Hexenkopf Rock has a similar witches. Well, locals still toss coins to appease it. Here, they'd need to toss therapy journals. Dawn brightens, the water's surface, now quicksilver. New images flash, a couple dancing in a burning barn. A sailor tattooing maps onto his own eyelids. A girl burying a laughing fox. Each stings like a paper cut between neurons. You press a palm to the menhir, its grooves match your lifeline. The ferryman flicks a coin into the well. It doesn't clink, just vanishes. Tips aren't mandatory, he says, but they boost your Yelp review in the underworld. A final face emerges, yours, but hollow-eyed, older, holding a key that drips squid ink. It winks, the water stills, ordinary puddle again, leaving your ears ringing. The ferryman offers a rag that smells vaguely of chloroform. You decline. He shrugs. Suit yourself. Next stop's worse. A bell tolls, or maybe your left molar just cracked. Doesn't matter. The path snakes upward, stairs carved into the cliffside. You take the first step, the well's whispers clinging like cobwebs. The stairs taper into catacomb throat, walls narrowing, until your shoulders graze pitted stone. Names swarm the rock face, Latin, Gaelic, runes you once doodled in margins. Salt crystals bite your tongue, air, thick with the tang of pickled centuries. Your thumb finds a deep groove, a leaner, carved when crusaders still pissed in the Seine. Mummification manuals from Thebes prescribe 40 days in natron salts. Egyptian kings' new preservations sting. These walls skipped the corpse step, went straight to brining regrets. A draft snakes through, moaning as it twists names into minor chords. You spot Moy beside Gregor. Polynesian voyagers didn't reach Cornwall till the 1800s. Historians still argue whether Pacific carvings here mark trade routes or prankster ghosts. The stone weeps where you exhale, saltwater trails glinting like snail tracks. That salty air's filed your fingerprints raw. Ever rub your eyes after handling movie popcorn? It's that, but with extra existential grit. Your boot crunches shells, embedded in the floor pale curls from mollusks, extinct before Babylon. 19th century phrenologists claimed skull shape predicted drowning risk. Jokes on them, these tombs only collect the interestingly unlucky. A name winks under your torch, Aoife, its A sharp as a ship's prow. Lean closer and catch the stink of rancid rose oil. Victorian sailors swore certain names, still sweat their owner's perfume. You're inclined to agree, and also inclined to never smell roses again. The tunnel kinks, revealing a shelf stacked with finger bones, each tagged with lead tablets, yours for 3 copper coins. Yesteryear's gachapon, the ferryman would quip. The ceiling sags, crusted with salt icicles that hum when drips hit. One fractures impales the floor by your toe. It shimmers, then melts into brine. Ossuaries in Prague arrange femurs artistically. These ones clearly winged it. Your torch gutters, darkness pools thick enough to portion into bricks. When you relight it, new names glare back. Jiang, Omar, Hypatia, fresh as yesterday's graffiti. A tremor shakes dust from the ceiling. Salt stings your scalp. That nun's diary mentioned quakes here, dead pilgrims fighting for name placement. She wasn't metaphor prone, unlike your ankles, which are now sprinting. The corridor dumps you into a circular vault, walls dense, with overlapping inscriptions. Moonlight bleeds through a crack overhead, illuminating a central plinth. No relic rests there, just a depression shaped like a left hand. Your palm fits too perfectly. Salt grinds between skin and stone, a medieval biometric scan. The floor drops 1 inch with a click. Somewhere, a slab groans open. The smell of low tide and frankincense oozes through. Your hands numb. Your ears pop. Allergies don't explain the 3 sneezes that follow, each echoing like a bullet. Byzantine emperors hired sneeze counters for omens. Hope theirs made more sense than this. You withdraw. The plinth rises, sealing itself with a wet crunch. Names around the vault now gleam gold leaf fresh and tacky. Your torchlight wavers, and the M in Marguerite drips downward, molten. No, alive. The walls are sweating mercury. You back into the tunnel, hearing the ferryman's chuckle like salt in an old wound. The ferryman's laughter follows you, crumbling like salt between floorboards as you stumble into a crooked stairwell. Each step groans underfoot, a chorus of timber asthma. Your palm still burns from that plinth's cold kiss, and the scent of frankincense clings like gossip. Above, a hatch hangs ajar, moonlight pooling through its cracks. You climb not by choice, but because retreat smells worse. The bell tower greets you with pigeon down and rust. Chains dangle their iron flaked like dead skin, each link big as your fist. The bell itself droops, a bronze bowl pitted by centuries of salt breath. Its clapper sways not from wind, but some leftover momentum. Touch it. Your fingertip meets cold metal. The vibration climbs your arm like a starving cat. Teeth rattle. Spit turns electric. Medieval foundries added silver to church bells. They swore it sweetened the tone. This one sings sour, a note that throbs behind your kneecaps. The chain jerks, clapper kissing bronze. No sound or too much. Pressure blooms in your sinuses. A phantom sneeze stuck mid-explosion. Sailors once swore bell towers hummed before storms, subsonic warnings from deep-sea leviathans. You're guessing that's bullshit, but your feelings agree. Moonlight slips through louvers, slicing the dust into nervous confetti. A name's scratched into the bell's lip, Hugo, with a doodled squid. Historians still argue whether 12th century monks understood cephalopod anatomy or just loved tentacle porn. You lean closer, inhaling oxidized metal and seabird guano. Dinner's regret climbs your throat. Another tremor, chains whip like electrified snakes. The clapper strikes again. This time, the note liquefies, pouring through your marrow. Byzantine nuns used bell harmonics to treat hysteria. Your current diagnosis: vibrating meat. A shadow detaches from the rafters, ferryman's hood brushing the cobwebs. He examines the bell knuckles grazing its lip. You woke the rehearsal, he mutters. Before you can ask, his palm slaps the bronze. The note splits into chords no instrument should hold. Your ribs become tuning forks. Eardrums flap like trapped moths. Tower stones weep red rust or blood. Hard to tell when your eyes won't focus. Krakatoa's 1883 eruption rang Earth's crust like a bell. This feels personal. Silence slams down. The ferryman peels his hand away, skin smoking faintly. They built it backward, he says, meant to call the faithful, calls the gaps between instead. You taste copper. Your nose drip paints a Rorschach on the floor. The ferryman nods at it. Third Wednesday, saints bleed saffron. You're early. His laugh rasps, a match dragged over stone. A chain lashes your ankle, yanking you toward the bell. Metal throbs against your temple. Inscriptions swim. Hebrew prayers welded over Norse curses. The clapper swings millimeters from your nose. Listen proper. The ferryman growls. The next strike isn't heard, it's groan. A sub-bass rumble that unglues your bones. Paintings in Pompeii show ritual dances to silent gongs. Maybe they meant this. Your molars itch. Hip joints creak like unoiled hinges. Then, release. You collapse as the bell stills. The ferryman crouches, mopping your brow with a rag that stinks of diesel. Better, he says. Now you're tuned for the last stretch. Above, stars pulse through cracked plaster. The bell's shadow stretches, forked and squirming. Your legs won't obey. The ferryman sighs, hauling you upright. Should have warned you, he says. Carillons were banned here post-plague. Turns out, certain frequencies stir up buried things. His thumb brushes your wrist, checking a pulse you no longer feel. Next time, he says, let sleeping notes lie. The ladder beckons downward, its rungs furry with mold. As you descend, the bell exhales, one final hum that lingers in your fillings. It follows you through the crypts, a mosquito whine only you hear. Halfway down, you pause, the towers whispering again. But now, you recognize the language, not Latin, not anything spoken ashore. It's the sound a coffin makes when the nails begin to sweat. The chapel swallows sound whole, your footsteps vanish before they hit stone. Pews sit empty, but warm, as if their congregants just dissolved into air. Medieval churches favored east-facing altars to catch dawn light, but this room spins like a drunk compass. No cross, no icons, just dust motes sifting through moon dust, each fleck glowing like censer smoke. You brush a pew patina sticks to your palm. Renaissance confessionals hid, escape tunnels for plague priests. This wood feels older, gnarled as a witch's knuckles. A spider skitters over the armrest, trailing silk like a bridal train. RSVP to the web, you mutter. Humor feels wrong here. The air thickens in response. Stained glass shards litter the floor, crunching underfoot. One fragment shows a peacock's eye. Another, a crown of teeth. Historians still argue whether Gothic glaziers used hallucinogens. But this kaleidoscope needs no drugs. Your shadow stretches, then splits, twinned silhouettes flickering in sync with your pulse. Light pivots. The far wall shimmers, revealing scratches in the stone. You kneel. Fingertips trace names, dates, a crude owl. Secret pilgrim graffiti, or last wishes scooped out with nails. A 14th century ledger mentions arum root ink for invisible messages. You breathe on the wall, hoping for spectral penmanship. Moss blooms green, spelling nothing. Something shifts behind you, not a sound, a presence, like sunlight through cloud cover. Whirl around, still empty. But the nearest pew creaks, weight settling where nobody sits. Tudor churches sometimes bricked up disturbed corners, ghost masonry. You scan for fresh mortar. Find only spiderwebs beaded with dead gnats. The air sweetens rotten fruit masked by myrrh. A draft snakes up your sleeves, playing your arm hairs like harp strings. Monks in Avignon hallucinated hymns from wind-slit acoustics. This feels deliberate, a composition. Your skull throbs in 3/4 time. A pew cushion disintegrates at your touch, feathers escaping like captive sighs. 3 float upward, then freeze. Suspended, you wave a hand. They part around your fingers like river currents. Byzantine choir boys once levitated dove plumes during Pentecost rites, parlor trick, or paranoid chronicles. The feathers spiral, forming a helix, then dissolve into dust motes. You straighten a crooked hymnal on the lectern. Pages stick together, sealed by centuries of damp. The lone legible word, Mappamundi. Medieval maps showed heaven as a physical realm east of Eden. This chapel mocks geography, directionless and dense. A fly lands on the book, tracing the letters with its proboscis. Loyal scribe, floorboards creak, rhythm matching your heartbeat. Not yours. 4 steps behind, then left. You spin. A dust vortex whirls where sound quit. The 1897 case of the moving pew in Cornwall was debunked as termites. But termites don't laugh in subharmonics. You press your palm to the wall. Stone breathes, warmth back. Cathedrals store daytime heat in their bones. This feverish pulse feels alive. An altar cloth covered in fossilized snail trails flaps, suddenly, corner snapping like a sail. Venetian priests used squid ink to forge relic manifests. You half expect the fabric to spell boo. Moonlight bleeds through a shattered rose window, projecting jagged teeth across the floor. Step into the light, your shadow gets eaten. Step back, it returns, chewed shorter. Renaissance optics couldn't explain St. Elmo's fire, but they'd piss themselves here. The ceiling groans. You glance up, rafters twist like dried entrails. Pigeons nest where saints should hover. One coos, its echo stretches into a yawn. Historians still argue whether holy sites attract birds or birds consecrate the holy. The pigeon shits. Debate settled. Silence thickens, a suffocating hug. Your ears pop, pressure shifts, suggesting walls inching closer. Parisian catacombs drive claustrophobics mad in 7 minutes. You count 6. A pew scrapes inches without moving. Sawdust trickles from its joints. You reach the center aisle, cobwebs cling like dried tears. Rub your face, webs stick to your stubble. Ladies, you wheeze, I'm flattered, but this isn't my veil. The chapel exhales, a breeze steals the joke into darkness. Something glints under the last pew. A puddle, too viscous. Crouch, dip a finger. Liquid cold as martyr's blood, but smells of apricots. Norwich cathedral's weeping icon hoax used scented oils. You rub the drop between fingers. It evaporates with a hiss. Windows rattle, or is that your molars? Frost crawls up the glass, forming sine waves. A nun in Wuisburg claimed frozen prayer texts appeared on her cell walls. These patterns look like musical notation or a fever chart. The door slams. Didn't see one, but now it's there. Worming oak banded with rusted iron. Handle shaped like a choking hand. Your own fingers twitch, echoing the gesture. Medieval helmet carvings, inspired. Your knuckles whiten around the iron handle. Cold seeps into old skateboard fractures. The door groans open, revealing a cloister garden choked with moonflowers. Their silver petals drip black nectar. Each drop hisses where it hits stone. A figure kneels at the moss-eaten well, hooded, stitching a gull's splintered wing with strands of his own hair. You step closer, crunching snail shells underfoot. He doesn't look up. Needle flashes, horsehair thread pulls through broken bone. Medieval surgeons used linen strips soaked in egg whites as natural casts. His methods, personal. The gull stares at you, one eye darting, the other milky with cataracts. Pilgrims snap ribs on the ascent. He says, voice like a bow, dragging across cello strings. His hood slips, revealing a jawbone lashed to his skull with leather straps. Historians still argue whether mendicant monks went bald from devotion or lice. His scalp gleams, inscribed with tattooed constellations. He snaps the gull's radius into place. It clicks like a rosary bead. Your collarbone aches, old mountain biking injury from 10th grade. Coincidence. The bird flaps once, testing repaired tendons, then dissolves into ash. Well, that's ominous, you mutter. The monk wipes bone dust onto his robe, which already resembles a baker's apron. He beckons. You kneel, crushed lavender releases a soporific sigh. His hands hover above your shoulders, no through them. Ghost dentist X-ray vision. Third vertebrae, he murmurs, slipped during a fall. Childhood, his accent orbits the Mediterranean, Sicily, Malta. Carthaginian trauma surgeons pioneered early traction devices. You'd prefer an inflatable neck brace. He peels back your shirt collar, fingertips trailing goosebumps. A hooked needle appears, shaped from a wishbone. Relax, he says. It only hurts if you believe in pain. 13 words, 2 over the limit. You're not counting. Really. Thread bites into flesh, no blood, just a tugging at nostalgia. He hums a tune, the same jingle from that taco truck outside your old dorm. Coincidence? Hallucination? 14th century Catalan manuscripts describe phantom melodies, haunting skeletal injuries. The needle dances, knotting your ligaments into Celtic patterns. He snaps the thread, a sound like cracking joints. Your shoulders levitate, float an inch above their sockets. Alignment precedes ascension, he says. The Latin root of religion means to bind. Your spine hums, vertebrae gossiping in Morse code. A scar on his thumb pulses raw pink against ashen skin. Keeper's mark, he explains. St. Apollonia's tooth drew out my rot. Dark Ages dentists sold martyr relics as anesthesia. You glance at his jagged incisors, orthodontics clearly not included. The well gurgles, spitting up a carp skeleton. He tosses it back absent-mindedly. Fishbones map tidal fractures, he says. Better than parchment. Byzantine fishermen used sturgeon spines to navigate fog. But monks play by different rules. Wind plucks at his hood, straps strain against tattooed flesh. Beneath the jawline, a cameo pendant glints, profile of a woman with falcon-winged hair. Cleopatra VII's physicians prescribed ground pearls for indigestion. You're about to ask, he tucks it away. Your knees protest the cold stone. He nods, a flick of his wrist. Moss creeps over your jeans, heated, like fresh bread from a stone oven. 12th century Cistercians baked floor tiles for winter warmth. This greenery hums, photosynthesis turned spa treatment. The monk dips a ladle into the well. Drink, he says. Liquid sloshes, viscous and iridescent. You hesitate. It's just kombucha, he deadpans. Finally, a joke that won't anger the architecture. You sip elderflower and iron tang. Memories flood, not yours. A boy in chainmail lancing a boil. A midwife singing over a shattered pelvis. The monk watches, stitching a crack in the ladle's handle. Shared pain weighs less, he says. Scholars debate whether medieval hospitals treated peasants or prioritized pilgrims. Your tongue tingles, ancestral arthritis. Placebo, free healthcare. He stands, bones popping like distant fireworks. Your body feels borrowed, but smoother. The gull's ash swirls into a spiral, reforming as a barn owl. It hoots, disgruntled, then torpedoes into the night. Don't thank me, he says, cleaning his needle with rosemary oil. Favors anchor the soul. Franciscans banned almsgiving on Tuesdays, claims it thickened the spiritual humors. You pocket a fallen moonflower, petals staining your fingers. He's already bending over a fractured turtle shell when you turn to leave. The garden's perfume clings, part pharmacy, part funeral. Stone steps materialize, leading up into starless dark. Your mended bones hum, ready for the next bruise. The steps deposit you into a long hall, sunlight razoring through thin windows near the ceiling. Midnight still grips the world beyond. Yet here, eternal noon bakes the flagstones. Straw pallets glow like gold ingots, their stalks, allegedly stuffed with valerian by 9th century nuns chasing dreamless sleep. You flop onto one, it crunches like a Rice Krispie treat. 5-star monastery hostel vibes. Warmth cocoons you, not from sunlight, from the pallet itself. Medieval peasants swore straw harvested during a waning moon retained summer's heat. This feels suspiciously like a stolen spa mat. Your backpack sinks into the bedding, zipper tabs melting into stalks. Rearranging your limbs only deepens the cradle. Clever bastards. A fresco spans the ceiling. Flaking paint shows monks hauling sacks labeled sandalwood and salt. Their eyes follow you, blinking in unison. You give a half wave. One winks. Hallucination or hagiography. 14th century. Italian convents spiked mortar with psychedelic lichen, accidentally or on purpose. Depends which grad student's thesis you trust. Your phone buzzes too. 47 a.m. glows stubbornly. The light here refuses to dim. Historians still argue whether Cluniac monasteries engineered eternal dawn chambers to confuse demons, or just really loved vitamin D. You throw an arm over your eyes, sunbeams imprint red veins on your eyelids. Something tickles your neck, not straw. A braided cord materializes under your skull horsehair, still faintly rosemary scented. Bone-mending monk's parting gift. You tug it, the entire pallet retracts like a futon from Hades. Too on the nose. The cord hums, ancient Gregorian chill-hop remix. Dust motes swirl above you, forming brief constellations before dissolving. That one looked like a skateboard, then your third-grade teacher, then a spatula. Your bones feel heavy yet untethered, mended, but not entirely yours. Carthusian monks slept in coffins to rehearse death. This is weirder. A bell tolls once, but the sound stays trapped in your molars. Pallet strands snake around your wrists, gently. 13th century sleep paralysis demon or guided meditation. The room breathes walls expanding millimeters with each sigh. 16th century stonecutters, chiseled expansion gaps for spiritual elasticity. Sure, you try counting fresco sheep. They leap over a painted abbot, holding a comically oversized spoon. One sheep pauses, mouths memento mori in Bluetooth quality Latin. Your eyelids droop, but true sleep feels forbidden here, like chewing gum in chapel. A nun materializes by the far wall hooded, shaking out fresh pallets. Straw flies in slow motion, each strand catching the light like shaved citrine. She doesn't glance your way. Good you're not ready to explain the stolen moonflower staining your pocket. The horsehair cord pulses once, and you're upright, no crick in your neck. Small mercies. Glancing back, the pallet's pristine, no dent from your sprawl. Either miraculous fluffing, or you've been horizontal for 6 minutes or 6 centuries. Your stomach growls, the kombucha's long gone. Shadows stretch improbably, angled as if the room tilts. You steady yourself against a pillar, it throbs. Pulse or plumbing. Cistercian hydraulics were alarmingly advanced. A bead of condensation slides down the stone, tastes like Earl Grey. Monks, the original vibe engineers. The nun vanishes. Another bell toll vibrates your molars, higher pitch. Time to bounce. As you reach the archway, sunlight glares brighter, scorching your retina. You stumble into cool darkness, trailing the scent of baked straw and unfinished business. Dawn stains the horizon salmon pink, the color monks once extracted from crushed beetles for illuminated manuscripts. Your breath hitches, that familiar Ferry Creek's dockside, lanterns swapped for mist-hazed sunlight. Waves slap the hull in triplets, Borromean rings of foam dissolving at your toes. The ferryman stands hooded as ever, one hand on the tiller, the other palm up. Payment. 16th century Suffolk ferryman reportedly accepted milk teeth as toll, though his fingers twitch like they'd prefer Venmo. Salt crusts the gunnels, crystalline braille, recounting every midnight crossing. You step aboard, weathered wood groans beneath your sneakers. The bell tolls once, a sound that bypasses ears to rattle your molars directly. 14th century tidal monks along this coast built stone calendars, predicting ebbs 3 centuries out. This Bell's Decarate math feels personal. The mainland shrinks, a charcoal smudge bleeding into pewter waves. Or is the island retreating? Your palms grip the rail, splinters whisper secrets in extinct dialects. Historians still argue whether Carthaginian trade ships anchored here, their lodestone compasses spinning wild in the mist. The ferryman coughs, a dry sound like papyrus unraveling, and gestures starboard. You turn, the Priory shimmers, quartz walls melting into dawn's glare. Gulls wheel through its ghostly spires. Or are they gulls? One dives, becoming a smudge of monks, will mid-plunge. Your pocket bulges with the horsehair cord, suddenly warm against your thigh. A souvenir or return ticket. The ferryman's sleeve ripples wind or laughter. His hood tilts, moon-pale chin glimpsed beneath shadow. Chronicles mention a 12th century navigator who vanished mid-channel, left only his logbook open to a page-reading knife, becomes wave. You blink, salt stings your lashes, and the hood resettles. Waves flatten, all slick mirrors fracturing the sky. Your reflection wavers, then grins with too many teeth. Norwegian legends speak of Havfruen, who mimic loved ones, their skin stitched from sailcloth and regret. You spit overboard, the face dissolves into froth. Something bumps the hull, not driftwood. A barnacled spine arches briefly, dorsal ridges sharp as monastic script. Megalodon tooth, whale rib. The ferryman stamps his boot, the water stills. 19th century dredgers swore they pulled up Celtic altar stones crusted with oyster shells. The sea here hoards its dead politely. Your knees buckle, not from waves. The deck lists toward no visible shore. Clockwise or counter. You can't tell, the horizon puckers like a healing scar. A tin mug materializes at your feet, stained with centuries of chicory substitute. Navy brew for the chronically underslept. You kick it. The clang echoes into a seabird's cry. Sunlight bleaches the boat's nameplate, Acheron letters half-eaten by salt. Cheeky. 3 briny drops land on your wrist, arranged like Orion's belt. The ferryman hums now, a ditty suspiciously close to my heart will go on. You mutter Titanic tourists under your breath. His chuckle smells of low tide. The engine stalls, silence yawns wide. No gulls, no waves, even your pulse quiets. Carthusian hermits sought this void, called it the luxury of uncreation. You find it mid-sneeze annoying, then the clank of heavy chains. An anchor. Nets. The ferryman parts his cloak, dull metal glints. Not a relic, a harmonica. He plays 3 notes, the mist convulses. Each puff stirs the air into shapes, a cormorant, a key, your childhood home's porch swing. You squeeze the horsehair cord, the visions shred like fog. Clever. Land reemerges, not the mainland's jagged cliffs, not the island's spire, but a third place. Dunes roll toward pine forests, their scent thawing the salt on your lips. Estuary. Dream. The 1524 Priory Rise map showed a phantom archipelago, here labeled Yadalar, Turkish, for Isles of Remembrance. Your left shoe fills with warm sand that wasn't there before. The ferryman extends his hand, not for payment, an offering. 3 copper pennies, 18th century British currency, verdigris blooming over Britannia's face. For the well, he rasps, first words since section 15. You recall the Priory's water mirrors, those borrowed faces mouthing pleas. The coins burn cold. A wave slops over the deck, retreating with a hiss. Where it passed, tiny white flowers sprout between planks, moonful no, plastic shreds, masquerading as petals, modernity's driftwood. You pocket the coins, they vibrate like muted phone alerts. The ferryman nods, hood dipping toward the unreachable shore. Your phone lights up 3:19 a.m., still no service. Yet the screen leaks vapors, eucalyptus, and burnt hair. A notification flickers, one new tide update. You swipe, it dematerializes. Clifford Still's paintings made tangible. 12 more waves. 11, you lose count. The engine roars back gasoline and rotten kelp. The ferryman's harmonica dissolves into rain, each drop warm as broth. You taste minestrone. Tuscan hermits brewed stormwater with rosemary, poverty's remedy for scurvy. This broth carries notes of lithium and regret. Spitting seems rude, you swallow. The prow parts a final curtain of mist, revealing your original dock. Mostly, the planks warp, some too new, others petrified. A figure waves from shore, 2 tall elbows bending the wrong way. The ferryman grips your shoulder, his touch glacier cold. They'll ask for the coins, he warns. Choose which lie to nurture. You leap onto the dock, knees jolting as the ferry peels back into the fog. The figure staggers closer, it's you, salt-bleached and grinning, wearing the Priory's dawnlight like a stole. Your pockets empty themselves, horsehair cord, black petals, and borrowed suffering clattering onto the planks. The other you tuts, fingers reaching, as the first real birdsong of morning splits the air. Dawn's pink bleeds into eggshell white. The shade tutor, painters used to mimic aristocrats' lead-whitened skin. Your double stands there, same sleep-rumpled hoodie, same sand nestled in your left sole's tread, but their eyes, pupils swallowed by mercury-slick silver. Took you long enough. They sigh, your voice warped through a seashell's curl. The horsehair cord writhes on the dock like a salted slug. You step back, heel meeting empty air where the ferry should be. Only mist remains, and the ferryman's final warning buzzing in your jaw. 3 copper pennies scorch your pocket, 1,816 mint. Same year, the Treaty of Ghent finally ended a war everyone forgot they were fighting. Other you clicks their tongue, a woodpecker staccato. Keep the coins, you keep the crossroads. Spend them, you pick a lane. Their grin splits, too wide, revealing molars engraved with tiny octopuses, an 1890s fad among Marseille sailors. Until dentists realized saltwater eroded the gold inlays. Wind gusts, carrying the pine resin scent of that phantom forest. Your doppelganger's hoodie flutters, showing a rabbit hash, KY logo. Odd choice for an eldritch entity. Then again, that town elected a dog as mayor for 9 straight terms. You palm a penny, verdigris stings like a jellyfish kiss. What happens if I ask and you'll jinx it? They cut you off, eyes pulsing. Ever spin a globe blindfolded? Stab a finger and poof, suddenly you're an expert on Ecuador. The dock creaks, planks morphing from driftwood to marble to something spongy and warm. Historians still argue whether Meriwether Lewis's gunshot was accident or assassination. But right now, you'd bet on third options. Like maybe he found his own ferryman. Other you crouches, plucking a black petal from the planks. It becomes a dead bumblebee, then a smoke ring, then nothing. Tick-tock, they murmur. Dawn's a fickle bitch. Sunlight glints off the Priory spire, still visible westward, though your phone insists you're facing east. The coins hum louder, vibrations synced to tinnitus from last night's concert. You wonder if Venmoing the ferryman would have been safer. Then a sound. Not waves, a drip. Slower than your heartbeat. Other you freezes, head cocked. Ah, keepers here. The dock's far end darkens, water pooling where none fell. It rises, a silhouette shaped less like a person and more like the idea of shoulders. No face, just the impression of something peering over spectacles. The keeper, or so your spine assumes. They extend a hand, sleeve frayed with algae. Your coins leap in your pocket, ferromagnetic betrayal. Other you snickers. Told you they'd ask. 1 penny flies free, landing in the keeper's palm, with a clink that echoes across 3 octaves. The sound rewinds your tinnitus. 1816 copper gleams anew, then corrodes to dust. The keeper's form flickers. A nun, a birch trunk, a ring of standing stones. 2 left, says other you, inspecting non-existent cuticles. Toss another or get creative. You rub the remaining pennies, edges sharp enough to draw blood. Vincenzo Peruggia stole the Mona Lisa in 1911 by hiding in a closet overnight. Risky, but simpler. The keeper looms closer, their shadow cold as a textbook spine. Screw it. You fling both coins seaward. 1 plops into waves, unnecessary. The other smacks the keeper's chest, sticking like a magnet. They recoil, shape unraveling into mist strung with bioluminescent algae. Other you howls, laughter or pain, as the dock liquefies beneath you. You fall, but it's more of a tilt. The world pivots, dumping you onto dew-slick grass. The Priory gate looms. Or maybe it's your apartment's fire escape. The horizon stitches itself back together, threaded with contrails and cormorants. When you sit up, only 3 things remain: a horsehair cord coiled in your fist, the stench of low tide, and a notification, 1 voicemail. You press play. Static, then waves, then the ferryman's rasp. Next time, bring proper currency. Starbucks gift cards work. The line dies. Overhead, a gull shrieks, its wings casting a shadow shaped like a key. Or maybe a tongue. It's hard to tell past the glare. Your shoes squelch, still full of that impossible sand. You shake one out, and a dried seahorse plops onto the sidewalk. 19th century apothecaries sold these as love charms. Clearly overstocked. Traffic horns blare rude awakening after a night of tidal lullabies. You check your phone, 3:42 a.m. The coins are gone. The other use rabbit hash hoodie was probably a decoy. But your throat tastes of minestrone and lithium, and when you cough, the air shimmers. A bus approaches, its route number irrelevant. You step aboard, scanning seats for hooded figures, just graveyard shift workers, and a teen blasting music through cracked earbuds. Safe, mostly. As the engine growls, you lean against fogged glass. The horsehair cord loops your wrist, itchy but familiar. Somewhere beyond the city's sodium glare, waves tug a ferry back toward unmapped shores. Your eyelids dip as the bus lurches, halted by a red light. Outside, a street lamp flickers. Beneath it stands a silhouette tall, elbows bent the wrong way. They raise a hand, 3 fingers splayed. A greeting, a countdown. The light turns green. The world tilts gentle as a hammock sway. Dew soaks through your jeans, cold kiss of reality. That impossible sand still clings, ground into fabric like stardust. You uncurl your fist, horsehair cord now soft as a twist of fog. Breathe deep. Exhale salt and subway exhaust. The bus seat cradles you, vinyl warmed by strangers' dreams. Cracked earbuds blast static hymns next to you, or maybe crickets. Hard to tell anymore. Streetlights blur gold coins strung on night's throat. You count them backwards, 98, 97. Your skull cradles ocean echoes. The ferryman's rasp now just a hum beneath tires on asphalt. The wrong-angled silhouette fades, melted into diesel smoke. 3 raised fingers, a trick of tired eyes. Your phone lights up 3:42 a.m. forever, then dims. Leathery wings brush your nape. No, just AC vents. When did buses get so cold? You tug, sleeves over numb fingers. The cord loops your wrist, itch gone, now silk against pulse. Through grimy windows, the city folds itself, neon origami. Awnings become tide pools, neon signs drip bioluminescence. That Starbucks logo could almost pass for a Priory window if you squint. Tinnitus fades, replaced by bus engines' lullaby. 3 coins paid, 3 gates crossed. Or was it 2? Math dissolves like sugar in tea. Your shoes, still damp, leave no trail here. Hoodie strings sway metronome for heavy lids. Someone's radio whispers, half heard weather report. Low pressure system moving out. Tides receding. Your skull meets vibrating glass. The driver takes a left, or is it starboard? Doesn't matter. Motion cradles you, waves without salt. Across the aisle, a woman knits fog into scarves. A teen mouths lyrics to a song that hasn't been written. You dream of keys, of tongues, of a gull's shadow stretching across 4 zip codes. The cord tightens gentle as the bus climbs a hill that shouldn't exist. Brakes hiss. Doors sigh open. No one boards. No one leaves. Streetlights hum nursery rhymes in a minor key. Your lungs sink to their rhythm, in out, in darkness spreads, warm ink in veins. The last penny drops not a clink, but a raindrop hitting moss. 2 words linger unspoken, unnecessary. As the night accepts your fare, sleep comes unmapped, but certain a ferry without timetables. You lean into its turn. Wheels whisper on wet pavement, endless, endless, endless.